Let's just be brutally honest for a second here. I want you to think about the last, significant investment you made for your business.
Right, like a big software migration or something.
Exactly. Maybe it was an enterprise software migration, a new fleet of vehicles, or even just, I don't know, signing a retainer with a new created agency.
Hmm.
I really want you to isolate that exact moment of decision, that moment when you actually signed the contract or, clicked buy. Did you authorize that purchase because the vendor handed you this clinically precise, bulleted list of software features?
Usually not, yeah.
Right. Or did you pull the trigger because you just desperately wanted to change something fundamental about your daily reality, like your profit margins or, your stress levels?
It is almost universally the latter. I mean, even though in the B2B world, we love to construct these elaborate
Oh,
spreadsheets,
spreadsheets are everywhere.
right, to convince ourselves we're behaving as like purely rational, logical actors, but we're not. We are buying a change in our circumstances. The features are just the rationalization we use to justify that emotional desire for transformation.
And I think that really challenges how a lot of founders think, right? Because founders, naturally, they kind of fall in love with the widget they build.
Of course they do. They poured their lives into it.
Exactly. So they want to talk about the transmission, the code base, the proprietary algorithms, rather than, the feeling of the wind in the customer's hair.
Which is what the customer actually cares about.
Right. And if you're listening and you feel like you're just shouting into the void online, like running ads that just don't convert or publishing content that gets zero traction, it's probably because you're leading with the transmission.
Yeah, you're totally missing the point of the interaction.
So today we're doing a deep dive into Chapter 1 of Digital Marketing for Dummies, the second edition. And we're going to completely tear apart a framework that rewires the psychology of how strangers become fans.
It's a fantastic framework.
It really is. The whole mission for this deep dive is to show you how to engineer a seamless customer journey. One that stops treating digital marketing like a really bad first date where you ask for a massive commitment before you've even introduced yourself.
And, that roadmap is absolutely vital for anyone operating in today's digital economy. I mean, the true engine of growth isn't simply about hacking some algorithm to get more eyeballs on your landing page.
Right, it's not just a traffic game anymore.
Not at all. It is about sequence. It's about understanding the cognitive psychology of the buyer and patiently moving people through a highly intentional relationship. If you don't map out that sequence, I mean, you're effectively just setting fire to your marketing budget.
Setting it on fire and watching it burn.
Yeah.
So let's bypass all the typical marketing platitudes and just get straight into the mechanics of this.
Let's do it.
According to the source material, before a business even considers touching a Facebook ad account or spinning up some complex SEO strategy, there's this foundational psychological baseline that has to be established. And the text frames this around the concept of before and after states.
Yeah, this is key. The core paradigm shift here is that businesses, they do not actually sell products or services.
That sounds crazy at first.
It does, but they sell a transformation. Every single prospective customer you will ever encounter is currently operating in what we call a before state.
Yeah.
And that before state is always defined by some form of discontent.
Discontent can take a lot of forms, though, right? I mean, it's not always a five-alarm fire where everything is burning down.
Oh, absolutely true. Sometimes the before state is acute, localized pain, like their server just crashed and they're losing thousands of dollars a minute.
Right, high panic.
Yeah. But sometimes it's just a chronic, dull ache, like being slightly out of shape or, feeling a lingering sense of boredom on a Sunday afternoon.
Or just the quiet terror that your business is slowly becoming obsolete.
Exactly. Whatever that specific flavor of the problem is, there is friction in their reality.
Wow.
So your entire objective as a commercial entity is to design a pathway that moves them to an after state where that specific friction is resolved.
Where they are happier or healthier or wealthier or just relieved.
Relieved is a big one, yeah. In that after state, their reality has improved.
So essentially the product itself, like the software subscription, the consulting hours, the physical hardware on a desk, it's literally just the vehicle for the transformation.
That's the perfect way to look at it. The shift from the before state to the after state is the actual commodity being purchased. Digital marketing is, it's simply the articulation of that movement.
Okay, so when a business fails, and let's specifically talk about, well-funded startups entering a new market with a genuinely innovative product, why do they tank?
Well, the authors point out that the autopsy usually reveals one of two fatal flaws. Either they failed to offer an afterstate that the market actually desired, meaning, their product market fit was just a delusion.
Right. Nobody actually wanted to go to that specific destination.
Exactly. Or the second flaw is they failed to articulate how their vehicle gets the customer to that destination.
I have to play devil's advocate here for a second, specifically on behalf of all the engineers and product developers listening right now.
Bring it on.
If I build the absolute best widget on the market, let's say it's faster, it's lighter, it's more durable than literally anything the competition has, why do I have to play amateur psychologist?
It's a fair question.
Right. Shouldn't a superior product inherently just win the market on its own merits? I mean, the specs speak for themselves.
And that, right there, is the great trap of product development. A widget, no matter how flawlessly engineered it is, it means absolutely nothing to a buyer until they internalize how it alters their reality.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
The text uses this brilliant illustration regarding the Ford Mustang GT.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, it's great. So if you're the marketing director for Ford, you are not selling a 435 horsepower V8 engine or an independent rear suspension.
Because most people don't even know what an independent rear suspension is.
Exactly. Those are just the specs. What psychological friction does buying a Mustang GT actually solve? I mean, it doesn't reduce your carbon footprint.
Definitely not.
It doesn't help you transport a family of 5 comfortably to soccer practice.
Right. Nobody strictly needs a Mustang to survive their daily commute to the office.
Precisely. So the marketing copy cannot simply be a technical manual. You have to vividly articulate the value of the afterstate.
Right. The feeling.
Yeah. The customer is currently in this, boring, predictable, slow, aging sedan. That is their before state. Your messaging has to deliver them into a new, exhilarating reality.
The visceral thrill of pressing the accelerator.
Yes, the sound of the engine roaring, the feeling of standing out from the crowd when you pull up to a stoplight. That emotional shift is the afterstate.
It's all about status and excitement.
Exactly. The authors also point to a historical example with Coco Chanel.
Oh, with the little black dress.
Yeah. When she introduced the little black dress in the 1920s, black was strictly reserved for mourning attire. Like, you only wore it to funerals.
Wow. So it was a huge taboo to wear it otherwise.
Exactly. She wasn't just selling a new cut of fabric or a different dye. She was selling a massive cultural transformation in elegance and liberation. She defined her entire empire not by the threads, but by the psychological shift she provided to her market.
I always like to conceptualize this using a video game analogy because I think it makes it super tangible.
Oh, the Mario one.
Yeah. Think about playing Super Mario. When you're navigating a tough level and you hit a block to get that glowing invincibility star, Nintendo isn't really selling you the star itself.
Right. The star is meaningless on its own.
Exactly. They are selling you the ability to sprint through the rest of the level, completely ignoring all the mechanics of the game, just smashing enemies without taking any damage.
Yep.
The star is just the product. The glorious, stress-free invincibility that is the afterstate.
That's so accurate. The player just wants to smash the bad guys without taking damage. If you try to market the game by just describing the star like, it's a yellow 5-pointed polygon that renders with a glowing sprite effect.
Nobody cares.
Right, nobody cares. It doesn't trigger a dopamine response at all.
So for those of you listening, there is a very tangible exercise you can do to build this out for your own business today. The text recommends creating a formal statement of value.
Highly recommend doing this.
And it strips away all the corporate jargon.
Yep.
You just fill in these blanks. Product name enables customer to experience afterstate. It forces you to isolate that transformation.
And once you lock that in, it immediately forces you to confront the next logical hurdle.
Which is,
Well, if you know exactly what transformation you're facilitating, you have to define who exactly is undergoing that transformation.
right, because if the invincibility star is the vehicle and smashing the bad guys is the afterstate, that begs a massive question. Who's actually holding the controller?
Exactly.
Because how we market that experience to a 10-year-old picking up the game for the first time is radically different from how we market it to a 35-year-old on a nostalgia trip.
Completely different messaging.
We can't transform a faceless, homogeneous crowd. We have to give the buyer a face. Which brings us to our second key idea, the concept of the customer avatar. The text refers to this as the Swiss Army knife of marketing.
It earns that title, honestly, because to move someone from being a cold, skeptical prospect to a rabid brand evangelist, you need, surgical clarity on their psychographic characteristics. You have to build a customer avatar, or what a lot of enterprise teams call a buyer persona.
When the source material uses a very specific, almost suspiciously detailed example for this, they call him Agency Eric.
Yeah, Agency Eric. It's a composite persona the authors actually utilize for their own business, which sells high-end certification products and training for marketing agencies.
Okay, so they built an avatar for themselves.
Right. Now, where most businesses fail here is that they stop at surface-level demographics.
Like age and income.
Exactly. They'll look at their analytics dashboard and say, okay, our target customer is male, aged 30 to 45, lives in a major metropolitan area, and has an income of $120,000.
It sounds like a lot of data, but
Demographics give you the skeletal structure of an avatar, sure, but they are increasingly irrelevant in modern digital marketing.
especially when you factor in all the recent iOS privacy updates and, the death of third-party cookies.
Yeah, that completely changed the game.
You literally cannot target based on those broad demographic buckets as easily or cheaply as you could, say, 5 years ago anyway. The ad platforms are essentially blind to a lot of that data now.
That is such a crucial context point. Because the demographic targeting algorithms are degrading, you are forced to rely on psychographics.
Internal drivers instead of external stats.
Yes. The text emphasizes that a truly effective avatar tracks internal drivers, their goals, their core values, their daily challenges, their existential pain points, and most importantly, their specific objections to the sale. You have to figure out what is keeping Agency Eric awake at 2 in the morning.
Okay, so let's get into Eric's head. What exactly is keeping Eric awake?
For this specific avatar, his primary challenge isn't just, making more money. Everyone wants that. His real challenge is scaling his marketing agency without being forced to work 80-hour weeks and destroying his marriage.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is. His deepest fear is losing his biggest client and having to lay off his staff. And his primary objection to buying a $2,000 training course isn't necessarily the price tag.
Which you'd think it would be.
Right, but his objection is the belief that he simply doesn't have the bandwidth to implement the training once he buys it.
I don't have time for this.
Exactly.
Let me pause you right there, though, because I know the immediate pushback from founders when you introduce this concept.
It's the fear of going too narrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we get this incredibly specific, if we literally invent a guy named Eric, pinpoint his fear of divorce due to overwork, and target his specific objection about implementation time, aren't we artificially bottlenecking our total addressable market?
It feels like it.
Right. Like, what if someone who isn't named Eric, who maybe runs a regional plumbing company instead of a marketing agency, actually wants to buy our leadership training? Haven't we just alienated them completely?
It is the most counterintuitive paradox in marketing, but the math proves it out every single time. Hyperspecificity scales exponentially better than broad, generic targeting.
Explain that, because it sounds crazy.
Okay, so if you write a piece of marketing copy attempting to simultaneously appeal to the agency owner, the plumbing contractor, the stay-at-home parent, and the retired executive.
You're trying to be everything to everyone.
Exactly. Your message becomes a bland soup. It speaks to no one because it lacks an emotional hook. It generates zero resonance.
It's the difference between writing an impassioned letter to your absolute best friend versus writing a to whom it may concern memo for a corporate bulletin board.
Yes.
One gets read and deeply felt, the other just gets ignored by everyone.
Exactly. When your copy directly addresses Agency Eric, when you speak to the exhaustion of the 80-hour week and the terror of missing his kid's soccer game because a client demanded a revision of week, a fascinating psychological transfer happens.
What do you mean by transfer?
The plumbing contractor reading that ad, who also works 80 hours a week and also fears missing out on his family's life, will instantly translate your message to fit his reality.
Oh, wow. So he sees himself in Eric, even though he's not an agency owner.
Exactly. The core human emotion translates perfectly across industries. But for Eric, he feels like you have placed a wiretap in his brain. It's incredibly powerful.
And from a purely operational standpoint, having that level of granular detail dictates the entire infrastructure of your marketing, right?
Oh, it dictates where you deploy capital. If you understand Eric's psychographic profile, you don't have to guess what content to produce. You know exactly what blog posts will hook him.
Because you know his problems.
Right. And if you know that Eric religiously reads specific industry newsletters or follows a particular thought leader on LinkedIn, you know exactly where to buy your media placements.
So you're not just spraying ads everywhere and praying.
No, it removes all the guesswork from your customer acquisition cost, or CAC. You stop buying ads on platforms where Eric doesn't hang out, which immediately lowers your acquisition costs.
So if you are an operator listening to this right now, block out 30 minutes on your calendar this afternoon
Mm,
to literally write down the adjectives that describe your customer's current discontent in their before state.
Highly actionable.
Are they drowning in spreadsheets? Are they physically exhausted? Are they embarrassed by their outdated software? And then map out where that specific emotional state drives them online. Are they venting on specific Reddit forums? Are they searching for templates on YouTube? You have to hunt where they live?
Because building the avatar is just the intelligence gathering phase.
Yeah.
Once you know who they are and where they are, you have to actually initiate contact. You have to introduce yourself.
Which takes us to the operational core of this framework. We have defined the transformation, we have the avatar, now we need to build the infrastructure that actually moves them. Let's look at the customer journey, specifically stages 1 through 3.
Right, the early stages.
This is the transition from total anonymity to establishing a verifiable relationship.
The foundational thesis of this section is that a customer journey cannot be an accident. It must be an engineered ecosystem.
Like a machine.
Yes. In a highly functional business, you have cohorts of people existing at every single stage of this journey simultaneously. The journey kicks off with 3 stages that require very little friction for the prospect: aware, engage, and subscribe.
Let's dissect the mechanics of stage 1, aware. How does a brand successfully penetrate the noise when a prospect doesn't even know they exist?
The make aware stage is purely about reaching cold traffic.
Total strangers.
Right. These are individuals operating in their before state who are either oblivious to your brand or, worse, oblivious to the fact that a viable solution to their chronic problem even exists.
So they're just suffering in silence.
Exactly. Mechanically, reaching them requires a pattern interrupt. You're generally using paid acquisition like a highly targeted social ad, a sponsored search result, or a disruptive piece of PR to simply inject your brand into their peripheral vision.
So the goal here isn't to sell anything. It's literally just to establish existence.
If you try to sell a high-ticket item at the aware stage, you will trigger immense cognitive resistance.
It's too fast.
Right. The only objective is to get them to acknowledge your presence, which leads directly into stage 2, engage.
And this is where the vast majority of direct response marketers completely faceplant, isn't it? Because they view engagement as a waste of time, since it doesn't immediately show up on a P&L statement.
They faceplant because the engage stage requires a paradigm shift. You must provide tangible, upfront value before you ever ask for a withdrawal from the prospect.
You have to give before you take.
Exactly. You are depositing equity into the relationship through entertainment, inspiration, or education. In modern parlance, this is the entire engine of content marketing.
The text highlights is a surprisingly simple example from Whole Foods to illustrate this.
Whole Foods executes this brilliantly. They publish high-quality, beautifully photographed blog content, like a post titled, 9 Refreshing Summer Drinks You Need to Try.
Which sounds so basic, right? Like, who cares about a summer drink recipe?
But if you analyze the mechanics of that post, it's incredibly strategic. It is highly relevant to their target avatar, someone who cares about culinary experiences and quality ingredients.
Okay, that makes sense.
It provides immediate, frictionless value in the form of recipes. It naturally elevates awareness of the organic produce Whole Foods sells, but it completely avoids a hard sell.
Right. There is no aggressive banner screaming, "Buy our lemons now or else."
No, none of that. They are patiently depositing value into the relationship.
And if that engagement effectively demonstrates competence and builds trust, it creates the psychological runway for stage 3, subscribe.
The subscribe stage is a massive inflection point. The prospect is transitioning from a passive consumer of your free content to an active participant.
They're raising their hand.
Right. They have granted you explicit permission to market to them. They're not exchanging financial currency yet, but they are exchanging digital currency, typically their email address, a phone number for SMS, or at the very least, a direct follow on a platform where you control the communication channel.
The mechanism here relies heavily on what marketers call a gate, and the book uses IKEA's strategy as the template.
Yeah, IKEA is a great example. They produce this massive, highly anticipated digital catalog. It's essentially an interior design magazine.
It's beautiful.
But it is gated. To access that premium content, you must explicitly request it by providing your contact information. You are voluntarily trading your personal data in exchange for a highly relevant resource that you genuinely desire.
The prospect has now crossed the threshold into your own audience.
Exactly.
And if we strip away all the marketing terminology, this entire three-step sequence is identical to the psychology of dating.
Oh, 100%.
Think about the mechanics. Awareness is simply making eye contact across a crowded room. You register each other's existence.
You're just on the radar.
Right. Engagement is having the courage to walk over and initiate a genuinely interesting 5-minute conversation. You are providing value through humor, empathy, or shared interests.
You're not asking for anything yet.
Exactly. Subscribe is the moment you ask for their phone number so you can continue the conversation later.
Yeah.
You cannot walk across the room, completely skip the conversation, and aggressively demand their phone number before you've even said hello.
That would be incredibly creepy. And yet, asking for a premium sale at the awareness stage is the equivalent of walking up to that stranger and demanding they sign a marriage certificate right then and there.
Hi, I'm Bob. Let's get married.
Yes, it triggers an immediate fight-or-flight response from the consumer. They will bounce from your site and never return.
So if you are listening to this, run a real-time audit of your top-of-funnel marketing today. Look at the ad creatives your team launched last week. Look at the hero section of your homepage. Are you aggressively pushing for the marriage, the core sale, before you have provided any engaging value?
Are you demanding their credit card details before you've even proven you understand their before state?
Right. That audit will likely reveal where your ad spend is just bleeding out. However, securing the phone number, building a massive list of email subscribers, that does not sustain a business on its own.
No, it doesn't.
A company cannot survive on a diet of passive subscribers. You have to monetize the attention.
Which introduces the main friction point of the entire journey. We have to seamlessly shift this dynamic from a passive exchange of information to an active commercial transaction.
And this brings us to key idea number 4. Stages 4 and 5. Convert and excite.
This is the gauntlet. This is where the prospect crosses the Rubicon and officially becomes a buyer. Stage 4 is the convert stage. But the authors stress a concept here that violates the traditional instincts of most business owners.
Which is what?
That the convert stage is not designed to generate massive profitability.
Okay, I really want to dig into that.
Yeah.
Because if a CEO looks at a conversion event, their immediate expectation is that it needs to positively impact the bottom line. Why would we design a conversion stage that doesn't prioritize profit?
Because the primary objective of the convert stage is simply to alter the psychological dynamic of the relationship.
What do you mean by that?
You are transitioning them from a prospect to a customer. To do that, you ask for a micro commitment, a small amount of money, or a significant investment of time.
Just to break the seal.
Right. It is entirely an exercise in establishing a transaction of trust. You are proving to their nervous system that if they hand over resources, you will deliver disproportionate value in return.
The classic example the book uses to illustrate this economic model is GoDaddy.
GoDaddy fundamentally built their empire on this exact mechanism. They are famous for their entry point offers, selling extremely low-dollar domain registrations.
Right, you see those ads all the time.
You might see an ad to register a new .com for $2 or $3 for the first year. Now, mathematically, GoDaddy is not building a billion-dollar enterprise on a $3 transaction.
Definitely not.
When you factor in server costs, administrative overhead, and the customer acquisition cost of the television or digital ad that brought you there, they are almost certainly losing money on that initial conversion.
It's a classic loss leader. They are willing to go negative on day one just to acquire the buyer.
Exactly. The entry point offer is designed to overcome the friction of the first purchase. It gets the customer's credit card on file, it establishes an account, and it ramps up their commitment level with virtually zero risk to the consumer.
And then they're in.
Once you're in the ecosystem, the probability that you buy hosting email services or renew that domain at full price next year skyrockets.
Let me ask you this, though, because not every business model involves the $3 entry point. What if you run a freemium SaaS application or a social network where user growth has to precede monetization? Does the convert stage always require a financial transaction?
It does not, and that is a vital distinction for software and tech founders.
Okay, good.
The text clarifies that the trust transaction is built on giving money or a significant amount of time. Time is a highly valuable, non-renewable resource.
Right.
If a prospect downloads your free project management software, spends 4 hours importing all their team's data, customizing the dashboards, and learning your UI, they have absolutely converted.
Even though no money changed hands.
Exactly. They have succumbed to the sunk cost fallacy in a positive way. The relationship dynamic has permanently changed because they are now invested in your ecosystem.
Okay, so they've crossed the threshold. They gave us $3 or they gave us 3 hours of their afternoon.
Huh?
What triggers stage 5?
Stage 5 is excite, and the timing here is non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
It must occur immediately following the convert stage. Once they make that micro-commitment, you have a tiny window to validate their decision. You must ensure they extract immediate, tangible value from the transaction.
They need to win.
Yes. If they buy that low-dollar domain from GoDaddy, the DNS setup interface better be frictionless. If it's the free software we just discussed, they need to receive a brilliantly designed onboarding sequence that guides them to a quick win within the first 10 minutes.
Because if they experience buyer's remorse or even just mild confusion after that first tiny transaction,
the journey terminates permanently. If you fail to excite them when the stakes are incredibly low, their brain will categorically refuse to trust you when the stakes are high.
that makes total sense.
You have to provide a dopamine hit that proves the ultimate the state. After state you promised in your marketing is real and attainable.
So for the operators listening, you need to engineer a highly specific entry point offer. What is a bite-sized chunk of value you can carve out of your core product that makes it an absolute no-brainer for your specific avatar to cross the line?
Find your $3 domain name.
What is your industry's equivalent of that? And crucially, once you define that offer, map out the exact sequence of events that happens in the 5 minutes after they buy it.
If you can master the excite stage, you have finally laid the foundation to build a highly profitable, scalable enterprise.
Which transitions us from the acquisition phase into the monetization and virality phase. This is where the compounding returns actually happen. Key idea number 5 focuses on the back half of the funnel, stages 6 through 8, which are ascend, advocate, and promote.
This is the territory where a business transitions from merely surviving to actually dominating a market.
The promised land.
You're moving from acquiring customers to maximizing their lifetime value, or LTV, and turning them into an organic marketing machine. Stage 6 is ascend.
And this is where the economics of the business actually start to work. This is where the profit margins live.
Correct. The ascension stage is where you present your core offers. This is the high-ticket consulting package, the enterprise-tier software subscription, the recurring monthly retainers, or the highly profitable cross-sells.
The real money.
But the critical psychological advantage here is that you are no longer selling to cold traffic. You are selling to a cohort of people who have already been converted and excited in stage 5. They already trust you.
I want to push back on the optics of this, though, because I know how cynical consumers are, and I know how some founders feel about aggressive upselling.
It has a bad reputation.
It does. Is the ascend stage just a sanitized corporate euphemism for squeezing every last dime out of a customer? It sounds a bit like, hey, we tricked them into the ecosystem for $3. Now let's lock the doors and drain their wallets.
It is very easy to view the ascension model cynically, especially if you've been the victim of predatory marketing.
We all have.
But the authors address this philosophy head-on. The entire model hinges on the integrity of the previous stages. Assuming you genuinely provided immense value in the engage stage and you delivered a thrilling experience in the excite stage, your customers actually want to buy more from you.
Wait, they want to?
Yes. Why? Because you are successfully facilitating their journey toward their ultimate actor state.
Oh, okay. That reframes it completely. If my before state is like, my lawn is a disaster and I'm embarrassed by my house, and I bought your entry-level cheap weed whacker in the convert stage, and I was absolutely thrilled with how easy it was to use.
You're happy with the vendor.
Right. I want you to sell me the high-end riding lawnmower. I am actively looking to deploy capital to reach my after state of having a perfectly manicured property. I don't want to go find someone else.
Exactly. You are not exploiting the customer. You are serving them by removing the friction of finding a new vendor for the next logical step in their transformation.
You're just being helpful, really.
And when you facilitate that transformation successfully, you naturally elevate them to stage 7, advocate.
Now, I'm looking at advocate and promoter on this roadmap, and honestly, to a lot of people, they sound like semantic variations of the exact same concept. Is there a functional, operational difference in how a business treats an advocate versus a promoter?
There is a massive functional difference, and it comes down to the mechanics of passive versus active behavior.
Okay, break that down.
An advocate is a highly satisfied customer who will speak positively about your brand, but usually only when prompted.
So they're not shouting from the rooftops.
No. If a colleague says, "Hey, our CRM is a nightmare. Do you know a good software vendor?" The advocate will gladly say, "Oh, we use company X. Their onboarding was fantastic. You should check them out."
Got it.
They provide incredibly valuable social proof, but it is passive. They are responding to an external trigger.
So what pushes them over the edge into stage 8, promote?
Stage 8 is the apex of the journey. Promoters are your rabid fans. They do not wait for an external trigger or a prompt. They actively, aggressively go out of their way to evangelize your business to the world.
These are the people with bumper stickers.
Exactly.
Yep.
They are sharing your content on LinkedIn without being asked. They are writing glowing, multi-paragraph reviews on third-party sites. They are literally dragging their friends into your retail store.
This sounds like identity fusion, where the customer's identity becomes so intertwined with the brand that recommending the brand feels like an extension of their own personality.
That's exactly it.
It's the classic Apple versus Android tribalism.
Identity fusion is exactly the psychological mechanism at play. They aren't just promoting a product, they are signaling their own values and status by associating with your brand.
And that's incredibly valuable.
Promoters are the holy grail of business because their advocacy carries the undeniable weight of authentic, uncompensated social proof. It artificially lowers your customer acquisition cost across the board because they are doing the top-of-funnel awareness work for you for free.
So the directive for the back half of the journey is to meticulously map out your value ladder. Look at your core flagship product. What is the immediate logical next step or the necessary cross-sell that would genuinely accelerate your customer's path to their goals?
How can you design an ascension model that feels like a service rather than a shakedown?
Exactly. So we now possess the complete architecture. Aware, engage, subscribe, convert, excite, ascend, advocate, promote. But here's the harsh reality of execution. Simply knowing these 8 stages exist conceptually is functionally useless.
It's just theory.
Right. A whiteboard sketch doesn't generate revenue. You have to actively build the infrastructure and monitor the telemetry of the traffic flowing through it. Which brings us to our final operational framework, key idea number 6, the customer journey roadmap and optimization.
The authors deliver a very blunt reality check in this section. Every single business on Earth has a customer journey, whether the founder engineered it intentionally or not.
It exists either way.
If you have processed even a single transaction, a journey occurred. The existential problem for most companies is that their journey is accidental, haphazard, and riddled with immense friction.
So how do we transition from an accidental journey to an engineered one?
Smart operators document this journey visually. They create a literal, formal roadmap. The text provides a matrix framework for this, where you lay out the 8 stages horizontally.
On paper or a whiteboard?
Right. Documenting this forces your entire team sales, marketing, product development to look at the exact same blueprint. It allows you to brainstorm highly targeted campaigns for very specific steps. But far more importantly, mapping the telemetry reveals what the authors refer to as bottlenecks.
The bottlenecks.
Yeah.
The specific points of friction where cohorts of prospects are getting stuck and abandoning the journey.
Precisely. It transitions your marketing from guessing to diagnosing.
Oh, that's a huge shift.
When you optimize a stage, you aren't just randomly changing button colors on a website. You are looking for the exact psychological or technical barrier that is preventing a prospect from transitioning to the next phase.
I always visualize this as a complex plumbing system in a massive house.
Oh, the plumbing analogy. Yes.
If you turn on the faucet in the master bathroom upstairs and no water comes out,
Yeah.
you don't run outside and just keep pumping more and more expensive water into the main pipe from the street.
That would be ridiculous.
If you run a diagnostic and find a massive gaping leak at the subscribe pipe, there is absolutely 0 point in pouring more Facebook ad budget into the awareness funnel at the top. The water is just flooding your basement.
You are literally paying to flood your own house.
Exactly. You have to patch the specific leak before you increase the pressure.
That analogy perfectly encapsulates the math of conversion rate optimization.
Right.
If you look at your analytics and you have 10,000 unique visitors reading your blog every month, meaning your awareness and engagement stages are functioning flawlessly, but exactly 0 people are subscribing to your gated newsletter, Your bottleneck is violently obvious.
It's the subscribe stage.
It is the subscribe stage.
Yeah.
The worst thing you could do is hire more writers to produce more blog posts. You don't need more traffic.
The traffic is already there.
You need to completely rebuild your gated offer to make the exchange of an email address irresistible. You fix the friction before you buy more attention.
If you are an operator, a solopreneur, or managing a growth team, your most profitable action item today is to grab a massive whiteboard and draw out these 8 stages for your primary product line.
Do it today.
Run a brutally honest diagnostic. Where is the massive leak in your plumbing? Where are you hemorrhaging potential revenue? Stop launching new top-of-funnel campaigns and focus all your engineering and creative energy on patching that one broken pipe.
When we pull back and synthesize the sheer volume of mechanics we've unpacked today, from identifying the cognitive dissonance of the before state to building the psychographic profile of Agency Eric, all the way through the math of an entry point offer and the architecture of the 8 stages, one singular overarching insight defines this entire methodology.
Oh, what's that?
The absolute soul of this chapter is the concept of intentional sequence.
Intentional sequence. I think that is the perfect summation.
Digital marketing at its highest level has very little to do with mastering the fleeting nuances of a TikTok algorithm or finding some black hat loophole in Google's search parameters.
Those are just tactics that change every week.
Exactly. True growth is fundamentally about mastering human psychology. It is the deep recognition that you are not selling a commodity. You are selling a transformation.
The after state.
Yes. It is the discipline of knowing exactly whose reality you are trying to alter and then having the operational patience to guide them logically step by step without skipping a beat.
It's about respecting the psychology of the consumer enough to not demand a marriage proposal the moment you make eye contact. You engineer a pathway that guides them from being an oblivious stranger to an engaged learner to a low-risk buyer, and ultimately, by continuously delivering on your promises, to becoming your most potent competitive advantage, a raving autonomous promoter.
It is the only reliable blueprint for sustainable scale.
Well, now that you have the architectural blueprint for how a customer journey is supposed to function, the obvious question staring you in the face is execution.
Always execution.
Exactly what types of marketing campaigns do you actually build to force people through those bottlenecks? How do you practically maneuver a cohort from aware to convert without coming across like a sleazy salesperson? You'll have to sit with that tension until our next deep dive, where we will completely demystify execution and unpack the only 3 specific digital marketing campaigns you will ever need to run to keep your plumbing flowing.
Right now, there is a business with like a completely mediocre product, and they are making millions of dollars. Meanwhile, you might be sitting there struggling to sell an absolute masterpiece. I know that sounds incredibly infuriating, but it happens literally every single day.
Oh, yeah. It's a bitter pill to swallow for a lot of people.
It really is. And, why is that? It's because that other business isn't actually just selling a product. They're running a highly engineered behavioral loop. Meanwhile, so many of us are still, throwing out random tweets, publishing hasty blog posts at midnight, and just praying the algorithm somehow takes pity on us.
Right, the old post and pray method.
Exactly. But today, we are putting a permanent end to that guesswork.
I think it's a painful realization for a lot of entrepreneurs, We tend to view marketing as this mystical art form, like you just need to be clever enough or loud enough and the money will just magically follow.
Like it's a Super Bowl commercial every time you post on Instagram.
Exactly. But relying on random acts of marketing is, well, it's the digital equivalent of standing in a crowded intersection and just screaming your business name into the wind. It depletes your resources, it completely burns out your team, and it rarely, if ever, actually moves the needle on your revenue.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We're digging into an exclusive exploration of Chapter 2 from our source material today, which is called Choosing the Right Marketing Campaign.
A very necessary topic.
For sure. Over the course of this discussion, we're going to tear down that outdated idea of disjointed marketing tactics. For anyone listening, whether you're a curious beginner trying to map out this whole online ecosystem, or a seasoned business owner who has hit a really frustrating plateau, you are about to learn how to architect objective-based campaigns.
Yeah, we're talking about a systematic approach here, something that seamlessly transitions people from total strangers who have absolutely no idea you exist into raving, loyal fans who essentially do all your marketing for you.
Sounds like the dream, right?
It is the dream, but to really grasp this, we have to adopt what the source text calls the campaign lens.
Okay, the campaign lens.
Yeah, it's a fundamental shift in how you operate. Instead of reacting to whatever new feature a social media platform rolls out this week.
Like, oh no, we need to do Reels now.
Right. Should we be on TikTok? You stop asking that. You become the architect of a deliberate customer journey. You start asking, what psychological state does our customer need to be in before they will actually trust us enough to buy?
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even begin to debate the how of digital marketing, platforms, the software, the ad budgets, we have to establish the why.
Always.
You cannot possibly choose a vehicle until you have clearly defined your destination. So the source text outlines 6 incredibly specific, common goals for digital marketing. And looking at this list, it strikes me that this is very much like diagnosing a patient in an emergency room.
I love that analogy.
Right, because you can't just walk in and hand someone a random prescription. You can't say, oh, your business is failing. Start a podcast.
Start a podcast. Yes, the cure-all for everything.
Right, without even knowing the actual pathology of the illness. Maybe their illness is we have absolutely no new leads, or maybe it's we have thousands of leads, but literally nobody is buying.
What's fascinating here is how often businesses fail precisely because they blur those diagnostic lines. They create a single piece of content, say, like a 5-minute video for LinkedIn, and they want it to somehow do everything.
Generate mass awareness, capture the lead's email, and sell a $10,000 enterprise software solution.
All simultaneously. And human psychology simply rejects that kind of cognitive overload. You just can't do it. The source material forces us to segment our intentions into 6 distinct objectives.
Let's list those out for everyone.
Sure, they are. Increasing problem and solution awareness, acquiring new leads, activating dormant leads, monetizing existing leads, onboarding, and finally building community and advocacy.
I want to deliberately slow down and analyze the mechanics of these, rather than just, treating them as a quick checklist. Let's examine that first objective you mentioned, increasing problem and solution awareness.
Okay, yeah.
Because there is a massive chasm between a customer feeling a symptom and a customer actually understanding the disease.
Oh, that chasm is where most marketing dollars just completely vanish. Let's look at the underlying behavioral economics here. A prospect has to recognize that they're experiencing a quantifiable problem before they have any capacity to care about your proposed solution.
That makes sense.
Let's say you sell a specialized productivity software for remote teams. A manager might be sitting at their desk thinking, man, I'm stressed, I'm working way too many hours, and my team feels completely disconnected.
Right, they feel the pain.
Exactly. They are experiencing pain, but they are not problem aware in a structured, actionable way. They haven't defined the enemy yet. And they certainly aren't solution aware.
So if your marketing at that stage is just a banner ad that says, hey, buy our $50 a month project management software, it's going to fail spectacularly.
Oh, 100%.
Because you are offering a cure to someone who doesn't even realize they have a specific disease.
Not only that, but you are creating active resistance. When you push a solution too early, the consumer's natural skepticism just flares up. Your objective at this awareness stage is completely different. It's diagnostic.
How so?
You put out a piece of content, an article, a short video that says, are you losing 10 hours a week because your team is communicating across 4 different unsynced platforms?
Oh, wow. Yeah. You are giving a name to their pain.
Yes. You are framing that nebulous stress into a very concrete problem. Disorganized communication.
Huh.
Only after they have that aha moment and recognize the problem do you shift the narrative to make them aware that a structured solution actually exists out there in the world.
It's like turning on the lights in a dark room before you ask them to navigate the furniture.
I love that.
Once the lights are on, they can actually see what they're dealing with. And that naturally creates a demand for the second objective, acquiring new leads and customers, which, let's be honest, this seems to be the one that everyone obsesses over. It's the constant pursuit of new blood.
Well, the obsession is valid, right? Because without a mechanism for acquiring new leads, a business will eventually just atrophy and die. However, notice how the text distinguishes acquisition from awareness.
They aren't the same thing.
Not at all. Awareness is purely about capturing attention and shifting a worldview. Acquisition is transactional. It involves actually capturing their information like an email address or a phone number, or securing that very first low-risk initial purchase. The metrics for success completely change here.
So we aren't looking at views or likes anymore.
Right, we are looking at cost per lead, or CPL.
I'm really glad you brought up CPL because that's a term that gets thrown around in marketing meetings constantly, often with absolutely zero
All
context.
the time.
So for the listener who might be newer to the technical side of this, cost per lead is simply the total amount of money you spent on an advertising campaign divided by the number of people who actually handed over their contact info.
Keep it simple.
Right. If you spend $100 on ads and get 10 emails, your CPL is $10. And the goal of the acquisition stage is to optimize that math so you can reliably scale. But, and this is a big, but what if you already have a massive database?
This is where things get interesting.
Yeah, this brings us to the third objective, which honestly feels like the biggest blind spot for most established businesses out there: activating dormant leads and customers.
I would argue it is the most expensive mistake a business can make, period.
Really?
The most expensive.
Absolutely. Think about it. If a company has been operating for a few years, they inevitably possess a database of people who expressed interest, handed over an email address, but just never purchased. Or perhaps they bought a single product 3 years ago and then went completely silent. They're dormant.
Yeah, the ghost town email list. Right. And the instinct for most marketers is to completely ignore them and just keep chasing fresh leads on Facebook or Google.
Which is madness when you look at the economics of it.
It defies all logic. The cost of acquiring a brand new customer from scratch is astronomically higher than the cost of re-engaging someone who already has brand familiarity.
You've already paid for them.
Exactly. The objective here is reactivation. It's designing campaigns specifically meant to wake them up, to remind them why they were interested in the first place, or to acknowledge that it's been a while and maybe offer them a specialized incentive to return. You bypass the entire awareness friction because they already know who you are.
I often think of it like having a literal gold mine sitting in your own backyard. But instead of digging there, you decide to pack up your truck, drive 3 towns over, and stand in a freezing river to pan for gold flakes.
That is a brutally accurate visual.
It's just an enormous waste of leverage. And speaking of leverage, the fourth objective takes this a step further, which is monetizing existing leads and customers. This goes way beyond just waking people up. This is the engine of profitability.
Right. This is where we have to introduce the concept of lifetime value, or LTV. The initial acquisition of a customer often happens at a loss.
People forget that.
They do. If you spend $50 in advertising to sell a $20 book, you are down $30. The business only survives if that customer eventually buys a second, third, or fourth time.
So the monetization campaign is where you make the money back.
Exactly. Monetization campaigns are entirely focused on generating high-margin revenue from the people you have already won over. This encompasses your upsells, your cross-sells, your premium subscription tiers. Like if someone buys a beginner's camera from you, the monetization objective is engineering a campaign to subsequently sell them the specialized lenses, the lighting kits, and the carrying cases.
Okay, I'm looking at this next concept on the outline, the fifth objective, and honestly, for the longest time, I assumed this belonged exclusively to the customer support team.
Onboarding.
Yeah, onboarding new leads and customers. Why is the source material defining onboarding as a core marketing objective?
That is such a crucial distinction to draw, and it represents a massive evolution in how we understand digital commerce today. Historically, marketing just kind of stopped the moment the credit card was charged.
Right, like my job is done, here you go, fulfillment team.
Exactly. The customer was tossed over the fence to the fulfillment or support department. But the text makes a really compelling case. In the digital age, a new customer is incredibly fragile.
Fragile in what sense? Like they might ask for a refund.
Exactly that. They experience acute cognitive dissonance, which we commonly know as buyer's remorse. They get completely overwhelmed by the new software they just bought, or they forget their login credentials, or they simply lack the motivation to actually implement the training program they just paid for.
We've all been there.
Oh, for sure. If marketing abandons them at the point of sale, the product will likely fail to deliver the promised transformation. And if the customer isn't successful with their first purchase, I promise you they will never, ever participate in your monetization campaigns later.
So marketing's job is essentially to manufacture success for the user.
Yes, you have to engineer content specifically for this fragile window. That means automated welcome email sequences that validate their purchase. It means creating highly engaging, frictionless training videos. It means sending them quick win success packets.
Giving them that dopamine hit early on.
Precisely. Good onboarding guarantees future monetization because it transforms a skeptical first-time buyer into a confident, highly satisfied user.
Wow. By framing it that way, onboarding isn't just like a polite follow-up. It's a defensive marketing strategy to protect your LTV.
Exactly.
And that leads beautifully into the sixth and final objective, building community and advocacy. This is moving far beyond a simple transactional relationship and actually creating a tribe.
It is the apex of the customer journey. This is the stage where your customers actively take on the burden of marketing your business for you. But, and this is critical, the sequence we just walked through is non-negotiable.
You can't just skip to the end.
You cannot arbitrarily decide to start here. You cannot launch a private forum or a brand ambassador program and expect it to thrive if you haven't sequentially made those people aware, acquired them, monetized them, and flawlessly onboarded them.
I love that. You can't ask for loyalty from someone you haven't served. So for you listening right now, before we even move to the structural mechanics of how to build these campaigns, I want you to look at your own operation with brutal honesty.
Take a hard look.
Identify your single biggest structural leak right this second. Are you pouring thousands of dollars into Facebook ads for new blood when you actually have a database of 5,000 past buyers who just need to be woken up? Are you trying to launch a referral program when your customers don't even know how to use your core product? You have to pick your destination before you choose your vehicle.
And once that objective is locked in, we have to completely dismantle and redefine what the word campaign actually means in the modern era, because the legacy definition is actively harming businesses right now.
I'll admit, I'm super guilty of this. When I hear the word campaign, my brain immediately goes to the 1960s. I picture Don Draper in a smoky boardroom pitching a clever slogan for a billboard, or maybe a massive multi-million-dollar television commercial push that runs during the Super Bowl and then just abruptly ends. It feels very static.
Right, very rigid.
But the source material insists that this mental model is completely obsolete.
It is worse than obsolete. It is financially dangerous. A modern digital marketing campaign is not a single piece of art, and it is certainly not just a witty slogan. The text outlines 4 defining characteristics that must be present.
Let's hear them.
First, as we just exhaustively covered, it must be objective-based. It is a highly coordinated set of actions intended to achieve one specific, measurable business goal. It is not a vague, nebulous attempt to get our name out there or build brand awareness.
Right, because getting your name out there doesn't meet payroll on Friday.
Exactly. The second characteristic is that it must be multi-parted. It is never just one thing. It requires a specific combination of elements to actually function. You need assets, which might be the copywriting on a landing page, a PDF guide, or a series of emails.
The actual stuff people see.
Right. You also need the technological tools to host and deliver those assets. You need traffic, which is the mechanism to actually force those assets in front of human eyeballs. And crucially, it requires a measurement system like Google Analytics or a CRM, so you have mathematical proof of whether the machine is actually working.
So it's a fully engineered system.
Yes.
Wow.
The third characteristic, however, is where traditional marketers experience the absolute most cognitive friction. A digital campaign must be seamless and subtle. It needs to guide the prospect incrementally through the customer journey, utilizing incredibly low-friction calls to action.
Okay, I have to push back on this seamless and subtle requirement because it feels deeply counterintuitive to capitalism.
Oh, I hear this all the time.
Yeah. Right. Like, if I am in business to generate revenue, and I have spent 2 years developing an incredible product that costs, let's say, $10,000, and I know it works, why shouldn't I just ask for the $10,000 sale right out of the gate? Why am I playing these subtle games? Shouldn't I just project confidence, put the price tag on the table and say, here's the value, buy it?
This raises such an important question, and the answer lies entirely in how the internet has structurally altered human trust. In a physical, face-to-face environment, we have dozens of subconscious cues to evaluate trustworthiness.
Like body language.
Body language, the physical storefront, a firm handshake. But in a digital environment, you are essentially a ghost. Trust is your most scarce and valuable resource. When you demand a $10,000 sale from an ice-cold prospect who just clicked a random link, you are introducing massive psychological friction. You are demanding a monumental leap of faith from someone who has absolutely zero experiential evidence that you can deliver on your promises.
I actually have a painful real-world example of this.
Oh, please share.
Early in my career, I was helping launch a high-end consulting package. It was brilliant, truly transformational stuff. and I set up an ad campaign targeting cold traffic people who had never heard of us, and the ad literally just pointed directly to a checkout page for $2,000.
Oh, no.
I burned through thousands of dollars in ad spend in a matter of days and didn't make a single sale. Not one. I was furious. I thought, well, the market is just cheap.
But the market wasn't cheap. You just violated the sequence of trust.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way.
It is the equivalent of walking up to a total stranger on the sidewalk, explaining that you are a great investor, and asking them to hand over their entire life savings on the spot. They might actually be the absolute perfect demographic for your services, but the context of that high-friction ask guarantees a defensive rejection.
Too much, too fast.
Let's look at the example the text provides to illustrate how to actually solve this. The LASIK Plus banner ad.
Oh, this is a brilliant case study because LASIK eye surgery is inherently terrifying. It's a major medical procedure on your literal eyeballs. It costs thousands of dollars, and the perceived risk is massive.
Exactly. If LASIK Plus ran a digital ad that said, "Click here to schedule eye surgery for $4,000, the conversion rate would be exactly 0. The cognitive load and the financial friction are simply too high for a banner ad. Instead, their campaign acts as a seamless entry point. The ad simply says, "Schedule your free LASIK exam."
It's so smart. The call to action is immediate. It uses an imperative verb schedule, so it's not passive, but the friction has been engineered down to near zero.
Right.
It's free, so there's zero financial risk. It's just an exam, so there is no medical commitment. The locus of control remains entirely with the prospect.
And that is the absolute essence of being subtle. Digital campaigns allow us to incrementally earn trust rather than demanding it forcefully. You get them to click the ad, boom, you have earned a micro-commitment. You provide value on the landing page, and you earn the right to capture their email. They come into the office for the free exam, you treat them beautifully, and you earn their trust. Only after you have seamlessly removed their fears do you present the $4,000 invoice.
Which feels totally natural at that point.
Exactly. And this incremental nature brings us to the fourth characteristic. Modern campaigns are in flux.
Meaning they are living, breathing entities. They aren't carved into stone like that Mad Men billboard.
A traditional offline campaign has a terrifyingly final lifespan. You spend $50,000 to print and mail catalogs, and the moment they leave the post office, you are completely helpless. If the messaging is wrong, you simply lose your money.
Which is terrifying.
Right. But a digital campaign provides instantaneous behavioral data. If LASIK Plus sees that 1,000 people are clicking the banner ad, but 0 people are filling out the form for the free exam, they don't have to scrap the entire initiative.
They just tweak it.
They can pivot. They can log into the software, change the headline on the landing page, adjust the color of the submit button, and optimize the trust-building process in real time based on how humans are actually reacting today.
Which takes so much of the terror out of marketing. It means you don't have to be a flawless genius on day one. You just have to be observant and willing to adapt.
Exactly.
So here's a practical checkpoint for you listening. Audit your current front-facing marketing. Are you acting like the crazy person on the sidewalk demanding a life savings investment? Look at your website right now. Are you asking ice-cold prospects for a massive commitment of time, like a 2-hour consultation or a massive commitment of money right out of the gate? Find where the friction is highest and design a more subtle entry point.
Having established this framework that a campaign must be objective-based, multi-parted, seamless, and in flux, the source material then categorizes all digital marketing into 3 major archetypes. These are the 3 core engines every business must eventually build.
Let's get into it.
Let's begin with the first one, designed specifically for when you need that influx of new blood, the acquisition campaign.
This is the critical journey from a total stranger to a first-time customer. The text defines the core goal here as moving a prospect from the aware stage all the way to the converted stage, and it breaks this journey down into 4 deliberate sequential steps. Make aware, engage, subscribe, and convert.
And the sequence here is the secret. If you reorder these steps, the entire system breaks. You must start with make aware. The people in this audience pool are completely oblivious to the specific problem you solve, and they have no idea your company even exists. So you utilize targeted advertising or search engine optimization to simply get on their radar.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, and I want to offer an analogy that I think perfectly clarifies the mechanics of this sequence.
Oh, I'm ready.
I always compare an acquisition campaign to modern dating.
Okay, dating.
Stick with me because the psychology is identical. You do not walk into a crowded bar, Spot a total stranger across the room, walk directly up to them, pull out a ring, and propose marriage.
Definitely not.
That is the ultimate high-friction, zero-trust scenario. You will be rejected 100% of the time, and you'll probably get a drink thrown in your face.
And yet, returning to your earlier story, that is exactly what you did with your $2,000 consulting ad. And it is how the vast majority of businesses run their Facebook ads today.
Yes. And I got the digital equivalent of a drink thrown in my face.
Mm-hmm.
In the real world, you introduce yourself. That is the make-aware stage. You simply catch their eye and establish existence. If they don't walk away, you transition to the second stage. Engage.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just stand there staring at them silently. You initiate a genuinely interesting conversation.
Yeah.
You tell a story. You make them laugh. You show that you actually have some value to offer.
Right.
In the context of this textbook, this engages stage is almost exclusively accomplished through content marketing. You provide entertainment, inspiration, or education long before you ever ask for their credit card.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where so many executives fundamentally misunderstand the purpose of content.
Oh, absolutely.
They view publishing a blog post or a YouTube video as this soft, unmeasurable activity, just, making noise for the sake of branding. But within the architecture of an acquisition campaign, content is a highly calculated psychological tool. It operates on the principle of reciprocity. You are providing upfront, free value to definitively prove you possess expertise. You are having that great conversation of the bar to mathematically reduce the perceived risk of interacting with you.
It's a filtering mechanism. And if that conversation is valuable, you still don't propose marriage. You take the logical next step. You say, hey, I really enjoyed this, but I have to run. Can I get your phone number so we can talk again?
Digits.
Yes, that is the third stage. Subscribe. You're officially asking for permission to continue the marketing dialogue. You are asking them to opt in to an email newsletter or to download a white paper in exchange for their contact info. They are raising their hand and signaling, yes, I acknowledge your value and I'm open to hearing more.
The subscribe stage is arguably the most valuable asset-building phase in an entire business.
More than the sale itself.
At this stage, yes. When you secure that permission, you take ownership of the communication channel. You are no longer reliant on the algorithms of Facebook or LinkedIn, and you don't have to pay them a toll every time you want to reach that prospect. You hold the keys. And this accumulation of permission perfectly sets up the final stage of the acquisition campaign. Convert.
Okay, keeping with the dating analogy, This is the coffee date. It is still not a marriage proposal. It is a low-stakes, low-pressure interaction.
That is a critical nuance. The transformation from a subscribed prospect into a converted customer is the finish line for this specific campaign. But we must remember the rules of friction we talked about earlier. The source text explicitly warns that this initial conversion should not be your most expensive, complex, or highly profitable offer.
Oh, really?
The primary objective at this exact moment is not to maximize your profit margins. The objective is to fundamentally alter the nature of the relationship.
You're just trying to get them to prove they're willing to spend money with you at all.
Yes. You want them to open their wallet and cross the psychological chasm of trust with a low-dollar, incredibly high-value transaction. Maybe it's a $7 report or a heavily discounted starter kit. The price is almost negligible. What matters is that once they swipe that card for the very first time and you actually deliver on the promise, meaning the product is genuinely good, the barrier of skepticism is permanently broken.
They experience it firsthand and think, okay, this company isn't a scam. They do exactly what they say they're going to do.
Precisely.
So your practical takeaway for the acquisition campaign. Check your front-end marketing architecture immediately. Are you trying to skip the subscribe phase and rushing straight into convert? Are you asking for a high-ticket sale before you've even captured an email address? Because if you are asking for marriage before you ask for a phone number, well, you have identified exactly why your advertising costs are bleeding you dry.
Let's follow this timeline forward. Let's say you fix the architecture. You successfully execute an acquisition campaign. You offered that low-stakes coffee date, the prospect accepted, they had a wonderful time, and they purchased your entry-level product. What is the next logical step?
Well, this is where the math gets tricky. Because, as we discussed earlier with cost per lead, acquiring that customer is notoriously expensive. You might have spent $50 in advertising just to convince them to buy a $10 starter kit. You are technically losing money on the front end of this relationship, so you absolutely cannot afford to just stop talking to them.
Exactly.
This is the pivot point where we transition to the second major archetype, the monetization campaign.
This transition is where a business actually achieves profitability and scale. Monetization campaigns are entirely engineered to extract revenue from existing leads and customers. You have already paid the acquisition cost. These people are safely inside your database. The text outlines 2 sequential stages for this campaign: excite and ascend.
The excite stage makes total sense, especially tying it back to our earlier deep dive into onboarding. You have to guarantee that they extract tangible value from that very first entry-level purchase. If they bought your $10 ebook but never bothered to open the PDF, they are never, ever going to buy your $2,000 masterclass.
Never.
You have to manufacture excitement around the purchase they have already completed.
Yes. The enthusiasm must be actively maintained. You target these campaigns specifically at people who have already committed time or capital to your brand. You send follow-up emails encouraging them to consume the material. You highlight unexpected features of the product. You share success stories of other users. You ensure they experience the win. And once that state of excitement is achieved, you present them with the opportunity to ascend.
The ascension stage.
This is the core economic engine of the business, and the source material uses a brilliant high-end example to illustrate the psychology of ascension: Rolex watches.
I love this example so much. The text points out a fascinating behavioral pattern. For every person who buys a standard Rolex watch, there is a specific, measurable percentage of those buyers who will happily buy a second Rolex or a third, or who will immediately demand to buy the absolute most expensive diamond-encrusted Rolex available simply because the option is presented to them.
It illustrates a fundamental law of behavioral economics, specifically relating to what economists call Veblen goods, or status signaling. But on a broader scale, a subset of any audience inherently desires the premium experience. They want the VIP access, the individualized attention, the done-for-you service, or the fastest possible shipping.
I have to pause here because I know exactly what some listeners are feeling right now. I've battled this exact mental block in my own career.
The guilt.
Yes. Is it greedy? Is it fundamentally unethical to immediately try to sell more stuff to someone who literally just handed you their hard-earned money? It feels a bit predatory, like, thanks for the $20, now give me 1,000.
I am thrilled you brought that up because it is the single most common psychological barrier that prevents entrepreneurs from scaling. We need to vigorously dismantle this myth right now. It is not greedy. In fact, if you view it through the lens of human psychology and service, it is the exact opposite. It is an act of deep customer service.
I want to hear the logic on that. How is asking for more money a form of service?
Because, as the Rolex example proves, a segment of your audience actively wants to go deeper with you. Let's ground this in a different example. Say you sell a $50 entry-level fitness program online. Someone buys it, they follow the meal plan, and they lose 10 pounds. They are thrilled.
Okay, they got the result.
A subset of those successful people are naturally going to want the next level of transformation. They are going to want one-on-one personalized coaching, they want maximum results, and they have the disposable income to pay for it. If you do not have a monetization campaign in place, if you do not offer them an ascension pass to a $500 a month coaching tier,
Right.
what happens?
They go somewhere else.
Exactly. They take their enthusiasm and their money, and they go give it to your direct competitor who does offer personal coaching. By withholding a premium option because of your own projected guilt, you are artificially capping the value that customer can receive. You are literally underserving your most enthusiastic buyers.
That is a massive paradigm shift. You aren't forcing anyone to buy the expensive thing against their will. You are simply removing the ceiling for the people who are actively raising their hands, wanting to exchange more capital for more value and proximity. That completely reframes the entire concept of an upsell from a greedy tactic to a necessary service.
Precisely. A well-designed monetization campaign capitalizes on this desire by making offers that naturally increase the lifetime value of the customer while simultaneously delivering disproportionate value back to them. It is simply about presenting the opportunity clearly and logically.
So your practical takeaway for the monetization campaign is this. You must create an ascension offer. Look at the core product you are selling the most of right now. Ask yourself, what would the ultimate VIP white glove done-for-you version of this look like? Build that offer, price it at a premium, and start offering it to your recent buyers. Because I guarantee you a percentage of them are waiting for it right now. And if you don't offer it, someone else will.
Which naturally leads us to the third and final campaign archetype. You have successfully acquired the customer using a low-friction entry point. You have monetized the customer by providing an exceptional premium experience. is that the end of the customer journey?
Not if you want a business that grows exponentially without relying entirely on paid ads. The ultimate goal, according to the text, is to forge a volunteer marketing army. And you accomplish that through an engagement campaign. This is the system that takes a satisfied repeat buyer and transforms them into an active, vocal promoter of your brand.
The structural stages outlined here are advocate and promote. These campaigns are fundamentally designed to build community architecture around your brand, your specific products, and your larger mission. This is where you facilitate online spaces and opportunities for your customers to interact, not just in a broadcast format with you, but peer-to-peer with each other.
So what does this all mean in a tangible, real-world sense? Let's use another analogy to tie all three of these together. Let's compare these three campaigns to the life cycle of a phenomenal local restaurant.
Okay, making me hungry, but let's do it.
The acquisition campaign is the marketing that gets people in the door for the very first time. Maybe it's a targeted Instagram ad offering a free appetizer with their first visit.
It lowers the risk of trying a new place. It's a low-friction entry.
Right. They sit down, they redeem the coupon, and the food turns out to be incredible. The monetization campaign is the highly trained waiter coming over at the end of the meal. The waiter reads the table, sees they are having a great time, and smoothly presents the dessert tray and the reserve wine list. They already love the experience. The friction of ordering is low because the waiter is standing right there, so they gladly spend an extra $60.
They're ascending to a premium tier of the dining experience.
Yes, but the engagement campaign, that happens when the head chef actually comes out of the kitchen, walks over to their table, shakes their hands, asks about their meal, and invites them to an exclusive invite-only tasting menu event next month.
Oh, that's powerful.
The restaurant has manufactured such a magical insider experience that the customer goes home, writes a glowing multi-paragraph Yelp review, and literally drags 4 of their friends to the restaurant the following weekend. They've become an unpaid, highly motivated ambassador.
I think that analogy perfectly captures the emotional mechanism at play. It's about status and feeling like an insider. And the digital landscape...
Because you were just handing a megaphone to angry people.
Yes. Behavioral psychology shows us that negativity bias and loss aversion make people far more likely to share a terrible experience than a mediocre one. Negative word of mouth travels exponentially faster than positive feedback. If you hastily build a community forum for a flawed product, all you have done is create a centralized public venue for your customers to organize their complaints. You accelerate your own demise.
It's the ultimate reality check. You cannot put a shiny engagement marketing Band-Aid on a fundamentally broken product.
Community building is an incredibly powerful but highly advanced strategy. It should only be deployed after the acquisition and monetization systems are finely tuned, and most importantly, after you have empirical proof that the core product consistently delivers on its promises. You have to optimize the value you provide before you can ask a community to amplify it.
Listeners, please hear this practical takeaway loud and clear. Before you decide to launch a private Discord server, before you try to implement a complex affiliate program, and before you beg your current users for referrals, take a hard, critical look at your core offering. Are there leaks in the boat? Are people actually getting results? Fix the product first. Build the community second.
So, if we take a step back, we now have these 3 incredibly powerful architectures in our digital tool belt. Acquisition to systematically bring in strangers, monetization to increase the lifetime value of those customers, and engagement to transform them into your emotional engine. But a massive logistical challenge arises when an entrepreneur actually tries to apply this theory in the real world.
The implementation phase.
Right. How on earth do we juggle all 3 of these massive systems without getting completely overwhelmed?
Oh, man. This is the most relatable frustration in the entrepreneurial world. It's the dreaded shiny object syndrome. It is so intoxicatingly easy to open up LinkedIn, see a competitor absolutely crushing it with a massive engagement post or a viral video, and immediately panic. You think, oh my gosh, I'm falling behind. I need to pivot my entire week to posting daily polls on LinkedIn.
We've all been there.
But you do that completely blind. You have no idea what campaign archetype they are actually executing, and more importantly, you have no idea what campaign your business actually requires to survive the month.
That lack of context is exactly why so many intelligent people fail at digital marketing. The text emphasizes a hard, unbreakable rule to combat this. One campaign type cannot do the job of another. An acquisition campaign cannot magically perform the duties of a monetization campaign.
You can't just swap them out.
No. If your company is facing a cash flow crisis and you need revenue today to make payroll, spending 40 hours writing a highly researched blog post to raise problem awareness is not going to save your business. You must ruthlessly balance your calendar and your resources based on what your business needs right this second.
The framework the textbook provides here is actually wonderfully simple and immediately clarifying. It acts as a triage system. If you are a brand new business or you have a tiny email list of 50 people, you only have one job. You start with an acquisition campaign. Nothing else matters. Don't worry about upsells. Don't worry about community. Just build the machine that turns strangers into subscribers.
Exactly. Start at the top.
Now, if you already have leads, maybe you have an email list of 10,000 people, but your sales are stagnant and cash is tight, you need to halt acquisition and build a monetization campaign. You need to extract value from the list you already own. And finally, if you are flush with leads, the cash is flowing predictably, and the product is stellar, then you allocate resources to an engagement campaign to build a defensive moat around your business.
This triage process is what the authors refer to as viewing your business through the campaign lens. It is the ultimate cure for shiny object syndrome. Let's revisit your example of the frustrated marketer who gets distracted by a competitor's blog post.
The LinkedIn guy.
Yeah. Writing a blog post is fundamentally an awareness tactic. It sits at the very top of the funnel in an acquisition campaign. But because they lack the campaign lens, the marketer publishes the post and then gets incredibly angry when it doesn't immediately drive high-ticket $5,000 sales by Tuesday.
Right, because they are judging an awareness tool by a monetization metric. It's like being furious at a hammer because it's doing a terrible job of turning a screw.
To build on that, viewing every single marketing action through the campaign lens instantly clarifies exactly what metrics you should be tracking and what success actually looks like for that specific action. If you authorize a Facebook ad spend designed entirely to get people to download a free PDF, which is a classic acquisition goal to build your email list, you should not panic if the dashboard shows a negative return on investment on day one.
Because it's not supposed to make money yet.
Exactly. Success for that specific campaign is achieving a low cost per lead. It is about acquiring the contact info efficiently. The actual profit isn't supposed to happen today. The profit is engineered to come 3 weeks later when those new leads are seamlessly transitioned into a separate monetization campaign. When you truly internalize the campaign lens, you stop panicking over the wrong numbers.
I love that perspective so much. It takes the frantic emotion out of marketing and turns it into a calm, solvable engineering problem. So your practical takeaway for this final concept: stop multitasking. Look at your business dashboard today. Pick the single campaign type your business desperately needs right now. Is it acquisition, monetization, or engagement? And aggressively ignore every other marketing tactic you hear about on podcasts or see on Twitter until that one specific campaign is built, functioning, and mathematically measured. Be absolutely relentless in your focus.
If we pull all of these intricate threads together, what emerges is a very clear, defining picture of what separates businesses that constantly struggle from businesses that scale predictably. Digital marketing is not, and has never truly been, a random collection of disconnected, hopeful tactics. You cannot just fire off a tweet, publish a blog, and run a disjointed Facebook ad and pray they somehow magically collide in the ether to form a profitable business.
It has to be an engineered, sequential journey. When you finally stop obsessing over individual, isolated tactics like agonizing over the latest change to the Instagram algorithm and start focusing your energy on holistic, objective-based campaigns, you stop guessing. You actually start growing. You know exactly what psychological job every single piece of content, every ad, and every email is hired to perform.
And that engineered journey deeply respects the psychology of the modern consumer. It introduces the brand gently. It provides immense upfront value to establish authority. It asks for a low-stakes commitment to test the waters. It over-delivers on that initial promise. It confidently offers a premium experience for those who want it. And finally, it fosters a genuine community. It perfectly mirrors the mechanics of human relationship building, just scaled and automated through digital tools.
It is so incredibly powerful when you map it out end-to-end like that. But now that you, the listener, know exactly which of the 3 campaigns your business needs to build first, well, you're immediately faced with the next massive hurdle. What exactly are you going to offer them? Because you can have the most flawlessly engineered campaign structure in the world, but if your core offer is terrible, the campaign will still fail.
The offer is the beating heart of the entire campaign. Without a compelling offer, the most sophisticated marketing sequence is just a series of empty, expensive pipes.
Exactly. So as you mull over which campaign your business needs to focus on right now, I want to leave you with one provocative question to chew on. What is a completely risk-free, unbulleted offer that you could design tomorrow to effortlessly attract your ideal customer? What is something so insanely valuable that you can give away for free just to lower the friction and start the conversation?
That question is the ultimate test of whether you truly understand your market's deepest pain points.
But you'll have to sit with that question and brainstorm for a bit, because we will have to save the behavioral secrets of crafting those irresistible winning offers for our next deep dive. See you then.
Would you ask a complete stranger to marry you on a first date? I mean, I want you to really visualize this for a second. You walk into your favorite local coffee shop,
Okay.
right?
I can see where this is going.
Yeah, you're waiting for your cold brew, and you see someone interesting standing in line ahead of you. You don't know their name, you don't know anything about them at all, but you walk right up to them, you drop to one knee, you pull out a diamond ring, and you just propose.
You'd probably be escorted out of the building.
Exactly, you'd be thrown out, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a completely absurd behavior because it violates literally every single social contract we have as human beings.
Right. It's just too much, way too soon.
But here's the crazy part. If we step away from that coffee shop and look at the digital landscape, businesses do the exact equivalent of this every single day.
Oh, absolutely they do. All the time.
They ask ice-cold prospects, people who have zero relationship with their brand, who are maybe just, casually scrolling through social media to buy high-ticket, complex, or expensive items before establishing even a shred of trust. They're essentially proposing marriage to a total stranger they just met on the internet.
It is the absolute definition of rushing the relationship. And when you look at the architecture of modern digital marketing, this phenomenon is arguably the single biggest mistake that companies make today.
Yeah, it's like we just forget how to be human.
We really do. We instinctively understand that human relationships require pacing. We understand the biological and psychological steps. You make eye contact. You say hello. You offer to buy them a coffee. You have a conversation. You go on a date. You build trust over months or even years.
But then we get online and it's just, buy my stuff.
Exactly. The moment we put on our business marketer hats, we just seem to suffer from this collective amnesia. We throw all of that nuanced social intelligence right out the window, and we demand immediate commitment. We just scream, "Buy now," at people who honestly don't even know what problem they're trying to solve yet.
Which is exactly why we are dedicating this deep dive to Chapter 3 of our source material, which is all about crafting winning offers.
A very, very important chapter.
Yeah, so in this deep dive, you are going to learn the exact sequence of offers, starting from giving away completely free value, moving into gated resources, shifting into deep discounts, and finally ascending to your high-ticket profit multipliers.
And this sequence perfectly mirrors the way human beings naturally build relationships, which is why it works so well.
Right. And understanding this sequence is the ultimate shortcut to turning a highly skeptical prospect into a raving, lifelong customer and doing it without ever feeling like a pushy, sleazy salesperson.
What's really fascinating here is that to understand this sequence, you have to initiate a fundamental shift in how you view digital transactions. I mean, in the business world, we absolutely love our acronyms, right?
Oh, yeah, B2B, B2C, all of that.
Exactly. We constantly talk about B2B, meaning business to business, or B2C, business to consumer. But to craft offers that actually convert, you have to realize that all business is actually H2H.
H2H, human to human.
Human to human, exactly.
Yeah.
Even if you are selling enterprise software to a massive Fortune 500 company, the company itself isn't buying anything. A building doesn't have a credit card.
That's a great point. It's always a person.
That's right. A stressed out middle manager named Dave or Sarah is the one sitting behind that screen. They're feeling anxiety about their quarterly goals, and they are the one making the decision to click, to subscribe, or to approve a purchase order.
And Dave and Sarah are human beings.
Yes. And human beings, whether they're buying a pair of sneakers for the weekend or a $1 million logistics platform, are universally wired to respond to value, to trust, and to the psychological principle of reciprocity.
Okay, let's unpack this H2H concept because it's so foundational. If we are treating our marketing funnel like a genuine human-to-human relationship, where exactly does that relationship start? I mean, how do we say hello to Dave or Sarah without coming across as creepy or overly aggressive?
Well, it starts with the concept of offering value in advance. In the digital world, your prospective customer usually knows absolutely nothing about you. They are in what we call a before state.
A before state, so like they have a problem or a pain point.
Exactly. They have a problem, a frustration, or an unmet desire. Your product is the after state. But to get them to even look at your after state, you have to lead with value. You have to prove you are worth their time before you ask for their money.
You have to buy the coffee first.
You have to buy the coffee. This very first step in the sequence is often called the entry point offer. And the most vital type of entry point offer is the ungated offer.
An ungated offer, meaning there are no gates, no barriers, literally no friction whatsoever. I don't have to pull out my credit card. I don't have to set up a complicated account. And I don't even have to give you my email address. It is completely free and instantly accessible to anyone online.
That is the mechanical definition, yeah. But here is the critical psychological nuance that, frankly, a lot of marketers miss. Just because it doesn't cost the prospect money or their contact information does not mean it is entirely free.
Wait, really? How are they paying if they aren't giving up money or an email?
They are still paying you. They are paying you with their time, and they are paying you with their attention. In today's hyper-saturated digital landscape, attention is arguably a more scarce and valuable currency than fiat money.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because there's just so much content competing for our eyeballs every second.
Exactly. So when you put out an ungated offer, you're actually making a very high-stakes trade. You are saying to them, give me 3 minutes of your incredibly scarce attention, and I will give you this specific piece of value in return.
That makes a ton of sense when you frame it as a transaction of attention. Like, if I click on a YouTube video or blog post, I am spending my time. And if that video is a rambling mess or just a thinly veiled advertisement for how great the company is, I am going to feel cheated.
You'll feel like you got robbed.
Yeah. Even if I didn't spend a single dime, I feel whipped off because I can never get those 3 minutes of my life back. My guard instantly goes up, and my relationship with that brand is basically poisoned from day one.
And that poison relationship is incredibly difficult to recover from. I mean, first impressions in the digital world are very often final impressions. They'll just click away and never come back.
So how do you ensure the prospect feels like they won the trade? How do you ensure they feel they got more value out of those 3 minutes than the attention they gave you?
There are 3 primary pillars of value for ungated content. If your ungated offer successfully executes on one of these 3 pillars, it will capture attention, build goodwill, and initiate that H2H relationship properly. Those 3 pillars are entertainment, inspiration, and education.
Okay, let's break those down because I think they sound simple in theory, but they are probably incredibly nuanced in execution. Entertainment seems obvious, but maybe hard to pull off for a regular, serious business.
It can definitely be challenging, but when it is executed well, it's undeniably powerful. Human beings are hardwired to seek dopamine, and entertainment provides an immediate dopamine hit. People pay a lot of money to be entertained in their daily lives.
Right. We go to movies, we pay for streaming services.
Exactly. If your content can make a person laugh or just hold them in suspense, they are going to organically remember your brand. The classic examples that really revolutionize this space are the YouTube ad campaigns from brands like Poopery or Old Spice.
To the Spice Guy. Look at your man. Now back to me.
That was an absolute cultural phenomenon.
It was massive. And consider Poopery. They took a product that could be considered awkward, taboo, or just plain gross to talk about. I mean, it's a toilet spray.
Yeah.
And they created these brilliantly funny, highly produced, almost aristocratic videos.
With the woman in the fancy dress with the British accent.
Yeah.
Yes. They completely cut through the noise of traditional, boring household product advertising. They didn't just list the chemical ingredients of the spray. They gave the viewer 60 to 90 seconds of genuine, laugh-out-loud entertainment.
And it worked.
It worked incredibly well. In exchange for those laughs, the viewer remembered the product, shared it with their friends, and the brand exploded. The H2H relationship began with a shared joke.
But wait, if I'm a B2B company selling like industrial lubricants or inventory management software, I can't really do a funny Poopery ad.
Yeah.
I don't have the budget for a comedy writing room, and frankly, my buyers aren't looking for a laugh when they are trying to fix a stressful supply chain issue. Am I just locked out of this strategy?
Not at all. It just means you don't lean heavily on the entertainment pillar. You pivot to the second or third pillar. So let's look at the second one, inspiration. Inspiration is about moving people emotionally. It's content that makes a person feel something deeply, usually tapping into their aspirational identity.
So it's about showing them what's possible.
Exactly. It shows them that their desired after state is actually achievable.
Nike is the absolute king of this, right?
Nike is the gold standard for inspiration. When you watch a Nike Just Do It campaign, they almost never talk about the technical specifications of their shoe rubber. They don't give you a diagram of the arch support.
Right, they just show people running up mountains.
Yeah, they show athletes overcoming massive adversity. They show a kid from a rough neighborhood training in the rain. They inspire you to push your own limits. They attach their brand to the feeling of human triumph.
But Nike has a massive marketing budget and global superstars. How does a smaller, regular business use inspiration?
You don't need LeBron James to be inspiring. Look at a company like Fitbit or even local weight loss clinics and fitness studios. They do this brilliantly by showing everyday people, not professional athletes, but people just like their target audience, achieving their daily goals.
Ah, so relatability is key there.
Very much so. Highly emotional before and after stories are the purest form of inspiration. For example, a case study about a small business owner who saved their family company from bankruptcy by using your accounting software is deeply inspiring to another small business owner.
It makes them feel like, hey, if they can do it, I can do it.
Right. This kind of content gives the prospect hope. It says you can achieve your desired state, and we are the vehicle to help you get there.
So we have entertainment and inspiration, but I still imagine for a lot of service industries, trying to be a comedian or an inspiring documentary filmmaker might feel like forcing a square peg into a round hole.
Which brings us to the third and arguably most accessible and widely utilized pillar, education. People are constantly online seeking knowledge to solve immediate problems. If you can provide the answer to their question quickly and clearly, you build immediate authority.
Just giving them the answer they're searching for.
Precisely. Just look at the massive global success of Wikipedia, which gets billions of page views simply by organizing and democratizing education. Or think about the search behavior on YouTube.
Right.
How many times have you personally gone to YouTube to search for a DIY tutorial?
Oh, all the time. Literally last month I searched how to fix a running toilet. And then a few weeks ago it was how to format a pivot table in Excel.
And did you find what you needed?
I did. And you know what? If a local plumbing company puts out a fantastic, high-quality, free video showing me exactly how to fix the flapper valve in my toilet, I'm incredibly grateful. I got immense value out of that. And if the leak turns out to be a cracked tank that I can't actually fix myself, who am I going to call? I'm not going to open the yellow pages or search Google from scratch. I'm calling the plumber who just gave me 10 minutes of free expert advice.
Yes, exactly. Because you are already in a psychological relationship with them. They have demonstrated competence, and they have triggered the law of reciprocity.
I owe them one, basically.
Right. You feel a subtle, almost unconscious obligation to reward their helpfulness. But here is the major trap that many marketers fall into with ungated educational offers. They think, well, it's free, so it doesn't need to be high quality. We'll just throw up a 300-word blog post that our intern wrote. That is a fatal error.
Because of the attention currency we talked about earlier.
Precisely. Or rather, yes. That is the core issue. There is an absolute glut of content out there today. If your free article or video is low effort, poorly produced, or just purely promotional fluff masquerading as education, it will fail to hold attention.
It's just a waste of their time.
It is. And even worse, it damages your brand. This is your very first impression. It deserves the same meticulous attention to detail, time, and energy as the products that you actually charge money for.
Okay, let me challenge this entire premise for a second, because I mean, if a business is putting out a funny video or inspiring story or a how-to blog post, isn't this ungated offer really just a traditional advertisement wrapped in a slightly nicer package? Aren't we just talking about standard advertising here? I feel like modern consumers are incredibly savvy. They see a how-to video from a brand and they know, oh, they just want to sell me something. Doesn't the consumer's guard stay up?
It is a totally fair pushback, and consumer skepticism is certainly at an all-time high right now. But the distinction between traditional advertising and a true ungated value offer lies in the immediate intent and the psychological state of the user.
Okay, how so?
Well, traditional advertising is interruption marketing. You're watching a TV show, and suddenly a brand jumps on the screen and shouts, "Buy our car! It has 0% financing." They are demanding a transaction from a completely cold audience. That is the marriage proposal on the first date.
Right. I wasn't looking for a car. I was watching a sitcom.
Exactly. An ungated offer, however, is a highly strategic, risk-free proposition designed to intersect with a prospect exactly where they are. Let's go back to your plumbing example. When you searched how to fix a running toilet, you were in a state of high intent. You had a problem.
I really needed my toilet fixed.
Right. The plumber's video didn't interrupt you. It answered your specific request. The video didn't spend 3 minutes pitching their hourly rates. It spent 3 minutes showing you how to fix the flapper. The value was delivered unconditionally.
I see. So even though I know they're a plumber trying to get business, I don't care because they helped me.
Exactly. Yes, the consumer knows you are a business. But when you deliver massive, unconditional value that genuinely helps them, the skepticism dissolves into appreciation. It's less about announcing your existence and more about proving your utility.
So, to synthesize this first step of the sequence, you build trust by asking your prospects for nothing but their time. You give away some of your best introductory value completely for free. You identify their before state. You give them a taste of the after state through entertainment, inspiration, or education. You are the person who buys the coffee on the first date, no strings attached, just to see if there is a connection.
That is the perfect analogy. You are initiating the relationship on a solid foundation of goodwill, utility, and trust.
Okay, so we've had the coffee, the prospect watched our video, they read our blog post, they got a ton of value. Now what? We can't just keep handing out free coffee forever if we want to actually run a profitable business and pay our employees.
Yeah.
How do we transition to the next step without breaking that fragile trust we just built?
This is where we must strategically move the individual from being an anonymous prospect to an identifiable lead. And to execute that transition, we introduce the second type of offer in our escalating sequence, the gated offer.
The gated offer.
Right. If the ungated offer was the casual, friendly hello and the cup of coffee, the gated offer is the actual intentional first date.
And what exactly constitutes the gate here? We talked about ungated having no friction. What is the friction for a gated offer?
The gate is a direct request for their contact information. You are offering a specific, highly desirable chunk of value, something significantly more substantial or actionable than the free blog post they just read. But to unlock access to it, the prospect must provide their private data. Usually this means an email address, but depending on the business, it could be a phone number or a physical mailing address.
So the currency has officially changed. We've moved from asking for their generic attention to asking for a piece of their actual digital identity.
And that is a massive psychological leap. This is a very real transaction. No fiat currency has changed hands, but an exchange of deep value has absolutely occurred. An email address is highly guarded today. People hate spam. They hate cluttered inboxes.
Oh, I guard my email address like it's my social security number at this point.
Exactly. When someone hands over their email, they are giving you permission to follow up with them. They are literally inviting you into their digital living room. Therefore, the secret to success with a gated offer is that the perceived value of what you are giving them must vastly outweigh their anxiety about getting spammed.
And this is where so many companies get it terribly, terribly wrong, isn't it? I go to a website, I'm trying to read an article, and a pop-up takes over my entire screen that just says, subscribe to our newsletter for updates. I just aggressively hunt for the tiny X to close it. Why do marketers still do this if it fails so miserably?
They do it because it's lazy, and frankly, it used to work in 1999 when getting an email was a fun novelty. Today, it fails because it lacks the most critical component of a gated offer, specificity.
Specificity, meaning it's just too vague.
Right. Subscribe to my newsletter is a demand on the prospect's time without any clear promise of an afterstate. That doesn't solve a problem. It actually creates a problem. More email to read.
Yeah, nobody wants more emails.
No one. To overcome the high friction of handing over an email address, your gated offer needs to promise an immediate dopamine hit or a rapid solution to a very specific pain point. High-converting gated offers typically fall into one of 5 distinct psychological categories. They need to provide a promise, an example, a shortcut, a solution, or a discount.
Let's walk through those categories because I want to really understand the mechanics of why they work. What does a promise look like in a gated offer, and why does it overcome that friction?
A promise speaks directly to the prospect's most pressing desired end result. It operates on the psychology of hope and expertise. Imagine a company that sells software to freelance writers. A bad offer is, join our writer's newsletter.
Boring.
Right, very boring. A powerful promise offer is a headline that says, enter your email to get free access to our proven framework for landing $5,000 freelance retainers. It promises a highly specific, highly desirable outcome, making more money in exchange for the email. The desire for the $5,000 retainer outweighs the fear of spam.
Okay, that makes sense. What about an example? How is it different?
An example leverages the psychological power of social proof. The best way to provide an example is through a detailed case study. People want to see that your method works in the real world before they trust you. Imagine you are a B2B company selling complex surveillance camera systems to university campuses. A terrible, vague, gated offer would be a white paper titled Security Trends in Higher Education.
Yeah, that sounds like homework. No security directors giving up their email to read a boring textbook chapter.
Exactly. But imagine the gated offer is a case study titled How State University Reduced On-Campus Assaults by 73% in 6 months Using Smart Grid Surveillance.
Oh, wow. If I'm a campus security director and my primary daily anxiety is keeping students safe and lowering crime stats, I am immediately handing over my email for that. It is an exact real-world example of the massive problem I'm trying to solve.
It is irresistible to the specific avatar it was designed for. Now, another incredibly effective CARMAT is the solution, which often takes the form of an interactive tool, an audit, or an assessment. You see this heavily in the software space. A prime example is HubSpot's website grader tool.
I've actually used that exact tool. You go to their site, you type in your website URL and your email address, and within seconds it spits out this beautifully designed, personalized report card grading your site's SEO, its mobile responsiveness, and its load speed.
Okay, let's dissect the psychology of why you gave them your email.
Yeah.
You didn't do it because you desperately wanted HubSpot marketing emails.
Definitely not.
You did it because the tool provided an immediate, highly personalized solution to a lingering anxiety you had. Is my website actually any good? It gave you an objective grade, and more importantly, it told you exactly which areas were failing and how to fix them. It delivered massive customized value in a matter of seconds. The friction of giving the email was obliterated by the immediate dopamine hit of seeing your personalized score.
That makes total sense. The personalized aspect is huge there. Another one that really surprised me when I was looking into this space, and this falls under delivering a specific solution or even just straightforward sales material, is the traditional IKEA catalog.
Yes, the IKEA catalog is brilliant in its psychological simplicity. Think about the mechanics of it. IKEA requires you to provide your physical address or your email to request their catalog. Now, analyze the mindset of the human being who takes the time to fill out that form. They are actively seeking out a dense book filled with nothing but products and prices.
They're essentially raising their hand, waving it frantically and saying, I'm moving into a new apartment soon, I have bare walls, and I'm actively looking to buy furniture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They aren't just browsing an entertaining video on YouTube. They have deep transactional intent. By gating the catalog, IKEA separates the casual window shoppers from the highly qualified leads who are very close to making a purchasing decision. They use the gate as a filter. Furthermore, there's a principle in behavioral economics known as the IKEA effect. People place a disproportionately high value on things they partially create or actively request.
Wait, so just the act of asking for it makes it more valuable to them?
Yes. Because the consumer had to jump through a small hoop to request the catalog, they actually value the catalog more when it arrives than if it had just been stuffed in their mailbox uninvited like junk mail.
That is fascinating. The friction actually increases the perceived value of the item. So we have all these different formats, promises, case studies, interactive tools, catalogs. How do we ensure we execute them correctly? There is an 8-point checklist often referenced by digital marketers for what makes a winning gated offer. Let's group these points into broader themes so we can really understand the mechanics.
Let's do it.
The first major theme seems to be about hyperfocus. The checklist asks, is your offer ultra-specific? And are you offering too much? The second part seems totally counterintuitive to me. Shouldn't we want to give the prospect as much value as humanly possible to prove our worth?
It does seem counterintuitive, but we have to remember the context of the digital environment. We live in a multitasking, notifications everywhere, deeply overwhelmed world. If your gated offer is a massive, sprawling digital library of resources, video courses, and templates covering 10 different topics, the lead gets instantly overwhelmed. You trigger cognitive overload.
Right, it's just too much stuff to sort through.
Exactly. The moment they feel like they have to set aside a weekend to consume your free material, they will close the tab and never look at it again. You want to focus on one big thing. Offer a single, frictionless path to a single, specific solution.
Which perfectly leads into the next theme, which I'll call the speed to result. The checklist asks, does the offer speak to a desired end result, and does it deliver immediate gratification?
Right. Your market is searching for a solution to their before state. They want the after state, and they want it right now. You must clearly establish how quickly they can consume the value. If they sign up for a 30-day drip email course, that is the opposite of immediate gratification. That feels like a syllabus.
Yeah, that sounds like a college class.
But a 5-minute checklist to audit your Facebook ads, that promises an immediate dopamine hit of accomplishment.
Okay, here is a theme that I think is incredibly subtle but vital. Shifting the dynamic. The checklist asks, does the offer shift the relationship? What does that actually mean in practice?
The best gated offers do more than just dispense sterile facts. They subtly shift the prospect's mindset so they are naturally primed to do business with you. Imagine a gardening supply store. They can offer a gated PDF titled The History of Botany.
Sure, which is educational but kind of pointless for sales.
Right, it doesn't shift the relationship. Instead, they offer a printable checklist. The 15 essential tools you need to build a thriving balcony garden this weekend.
Ah, I see where this is going. It educates them on the process of building the garden, but it also conveniently lists the exact 15 tools that, surprise, surprise, your gardening store sells.
Exactly. It shifts them from a curious reader looking for general advice into an informed prospective buyer who now has a shopping list. It changes their state of mind from passive learning to active implementation, and it positions you as the default supplier for that implementation.
Now let's talk about the physical or digital presentation. The checklist mentions high perceived value and high actual value. What's the difference there?
Just because an item is technically free doesn't mean it should look cheap. Human beings judge books by their covers. Good design, professional graphics, clean typography, and solid formatting make the prospect feel like they are receiving something substantial and premium even before they consume it. That is perceived value, and it's what gets them to actually type their email into the box in the first place.
And actual value is the follow-through, I assume.
Yes. Perceived value gets the click. Actual value determines if they ever open an email from you again. If you promise a revolutionary marketing framework and you deliver a one-page Word document with 3 generic bullet points, you've destroyed the trust. You pulled a bait and switch. The offer must deliver exactly what was promised, if not slightly more.
Okay, bringing us to the final point of this section, and this is where I need you to really defend this philosophy, because I see companies violating this all the time. The final rule is, does the offer allow for rapid consumption? Let's debate this. Why shouldn't my gated offer be a massive, beautifully designed 300-page comprehensive ebook detailing absolutely everything I know about my industry? Wouldn't that establish me as the ultimate undisputed authority? I mean, I see huge consulting firms putting out 100-page reports all the time.
Those massive reports serve a very different corporate purpose. They're often for PR, generating backlinks from journalists, or just impressing shareholders. But if your goal is direct customer acquisition, a 300-page ebook is a momentum killer. This raises the most important concept regarding the psychology of the customer journey, which is pacing. Remember, your ultimate goal is not to have them read a book. Your goal is to graduate them to the next stage of the relationship, which is getting them to actually buy something to solve their problem.
Right.
If you give a prospect a 300-page ebook, what happens? They download it, they look at the page count, they feel completely overwhelmed, and they save it to their desktop in a folder called To Read Later. And it just sits there for 3 weeks gathering digital dust.
Yeah.
During those 3 weeks, you are paralyzed. You cannot effectively make your next offer because they haven't experienced the value of the first offer yet.
Because if I ask you on a second date before the first date is even over, or before we've even gone on the first date because you had to reschedule, it's awkward and pushy.
Yes. You completely lose the momentum of the interaction. To keep the momentum going, they need a quick win immediately. They need to consume the gated offer in 5 or 10 minutes, experience that little burst of value, think to themselves, wow, this company really knows their stuff. That was incredibly helpful. And then right at the peak of that positive emotion, you are perfectly positioned to make the next offer in the sequence. A massive ebook creates a massive roadblock in the customer journey.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Treat a prospect's email as highly valuable currency and deliver a highly specific, rapidly consumable solution in exchange for it to keep the momentum going. Got it. So let's look at the sequence so far. We gave them free value with the ungated offer. We built initial trust. Then we offered a specific high-value solution in exchange for their email. We went on the first date and it went great. Now we have a lead. But here is the harsh reality of business. A list of leads doesn't make payroll.
No, it certainly doesn't.
A spreadsheet full of emails doesn't pay the rent. How do we get a buyer?
This brings us to the third stage of the escalating sequence. And frankly, this is the most counterintuitive, mathematically terrifying part of the entire strategy for most business owners. Deep discount offers.
The deep discount. So we are slashing prices.
We are slashing them dramatically. We are talking 50% off, 80% off, or sometimes even 100% off a physical item. This is an irresistible, low-ticket offer made specifically and exclusively to convert those newly acquired leads into paying buyers.
But wait, if we are slashing prices that deeply, how on earth are we making any money? Factoring in the cost of goods, the software hosting, the advertising spend to get the lead in the first place. I mean, we are going to be in the red.
We are absolutely going to be in the red on this specific transaction. And here is where it requires a complete paradigm shift in how you view a business model. The goal of the deep discount offer is not profit. In fact, if you are doing it right, you should expect to lose money on this step. The singular obsessive goal of this offer is to change the relationship status from lead to buyer.
To change the relationship status. Why is that specific psychological transition so incredibly critical that we are willing to literally bleed cash to achieve it?
Because in all of marketing and sales, the hardest, most friction-filled action to get a human being to take is to pull their credit card out of their wallet and type those 16 digits into a form for the very first time. There is a massive psychological barrier built on years of consumer skepticism between being a free lead and becoming a paying customer. The brain is just screaming, is this a scam? Will they steal my data? Is the product going to be garbage?
Yeah, that hesitation is real.
But once a prospect successfully buys from you, even if it is just a $5 impulse item, and they have a positive, seamless checkout experience, and the product actually delivers value, their brain rewires its relationship to your brand. The psychological barrier shatters. They are now mathematically and psychologically infinitely more likely to buy from you again. You aren't a stranger on the internet anymore. You are a trusted, verified vendor.
It's like breaking the ice on spending money. Once the ice is broken, the water flows much easier. I get that. But I want to look at some real-world examples because executing this seems tricky. One strategy often discussed for physical e-commerce products is the free plus shipping model.
This is a classic direct response strategy. Imagine a beauty and skincare brand. They might offer a physical sample of their premium face cream completely for free, and the customer only pays the $4.95 cost for shipping and handling. It is an incredibly compelling offer because the perceived value is a high-end beauty product, but the monetary barrier to entry is just the loose change in the customer's pocket for shipping. It practically forces the transition from lead to buyer.
That works great if I have a warehouse full of physical widgets like face cream. But what if I don't sell physical products? What if I run a B2B service agency or I sell high-ticket consulting? I can't exactly offer free shipping on an hour of consulting.
In the service or digital space, you utilize a strategy called splintering. You look at your massive, expensive, comprehensive core service, and you splinter off one tiny standalone, highly specific piece of it and offer it at a deep discount. Let's look at the freelance marketplace Fiverr as a conceptual example of this.
Okay, Fiverr. How does splintering work there?
Imagine you run a high-end branding agency. Your core offer is a $10,000 comprehensive corporate identity package. It includes websites, style guides, market research, everything. If you pitch that to a brand new lead who just downloaded your PDF, they will run away. It's too much commitment, so you splinter the core offer. You offer a simple, custom, vintage logo design for $15.
Just a tiny piece of the big package.
Exactly. The logo design is a splinter of your main service. It gets the buyer in the door. It allows you to prove your communication skills, your design competence, and your reliability. Once you deliver an amazing $15 logo, the client is thrilled, trust is established, and then you are perfectly positioned to upsell them to the full branding package.
Another psychological concept that plays heavily into these deep discounts is the idea of the little victory. I love this because it deals with the customer's internal psychology, not just the relationship with the brand.
It is a vital concept. We talked about how deep discounts lower the monetary risk, which helps the buyer overcome their doubt about your company. But many buyers also suffer from deep internal self-doubt about themselves. They doubt their own ability to actually achieve the after state, regardless of how good your product is. A brilliantly designed deep discount offer should provide a little victory that gives them a surge of hope and momentum.
Think about the fitness industry. If someone is severely out of shape and wants to change their life, their biggest obstacle isn't just the $100 monthly cost of a gym membership. Their biggest obstacle is the internal voice saying, you've tried this 3 times before and quit after 3 days. You're going to fail again. So a smart gym might offer a 7-day introductory class bundle for $10.
Exactly. And the marketing message isn't just, hey, here's a cheap class. The message is meticulously designed to attack that self-doubt. The hardest part of getting in shape is just surviving the first week. We have built a specialized 7-day intro program. Take this class for $10. If you can conquer this first week, you prove to yourself that you can conquer the whole program.
It gives them a taste of success.
Right. It gets them over the massive hump of internal self-doubt, generating the momentum they need to commit to the high-ticket yearly membership.
That is brilliant because it aligns your business goal with their emotional need. Now, let's look at the completely opposite end of the emotional spectrum. There is a tactic known as offering the unsexy necessity as a deep discount.
This is a phenomenal tactic if you operate in a space that requires supplies, components, or recurring consumables. You ask yourself, what is the one boring utilitarian thing everyone in my market absolutely needs, but isn't necessarily excited to spend money on? Let's use the example of a hobbyist who makes custom candles at home.
Okay, candle making.
They love buying all the fun, expensive scented oils, the intricate glass jars, and the colored waxes. But what is the one thing they absolutely need for every single candle, but couldn't care less about buying? The wick.
So, as the supplier, you sell the wick at a massive discount, maybe even taking a loss on it.
You sell a bulk bundle of premium wicks for almost nothing. Every candle maker needs them. They see your ad, they think, wow, that's incredibly cheap for wicks, and they buy them. You give them a flawless checkout experience. The wicks arrive 2 days early, nicely packaged. Guess where that candle maker is going to go when they need to drop $150 on those expensive, high-margin scented oils next week?
They are coming right back to you.
Exactly, because you are now their trusted, verified vendor, and the friction is gone.
Okay, let's run through the mechanics of designing these deep discount offers. There are 5 key criteria here. Number 1, it must lower the barrier to entry.
The general psychological rule of thumb in digital marketing is to keep this offer under $20. It needs to firmly reside in the category of an impulse buy. If the price is high enough that they have to talk to their spouse about it or check their monthly budget spreadsheet, the friction is too high and the offer will fail to convert leads at scale.
That makes sense. Number 2, it must have clear, immediately understandable value.
It cannot be complex. If it requires a 10-minute explainer video for the customer to understand why the deep discount offer is valuable, it is no longer an impulse buy. The value proposition must be instantly obvious. Get 100 premium candle wicks for $2. Boom! I understand it instantly.
Now, number 3. Here's where it gets highly controversial and where I want to push back hard. The rule states the offer must be useful but incomplete. I'll be honest, as a consumer, when I hear incomplete, I immediately hear bait and switch. Doesn't offering something incomplete anger the customer? If I buy something and then realize I have to pay full price for the rest of the solution later to actually make it work, I'm going to feel completely scammed. Doesn't this completely destroy the trust we just spent 2 stages building?
This is the most common fear business owners have when designing these offers, and it's why we have to deeply analyze that word useful. It absolutely cannot be a bait and switch. If they buy the $15 item and it turns out to be entirely useless without forcing them to buy the $500 item, they will indeed feel scammed, they will demand a refund, and you have lost a customer for life.
Right, which defeats the whole purpose.
The discounted item must be incredibly valuable, fully functional, and solve a specific problem on its own. It is just a smaller piece of the macro puzzle. Let's go back to the $15 logo design splinter. The client pays $15, and they get a fully functioning, high-resolution, beautifully designed logo. They can take that logo, put it on a thumb drive, walk away forever, and they receive tremendous, complete value for their $15. It is incredibly useful.
Okay, so how is it incomplete then?
It's incomplete in the macro sense because having a logo does not mean you have a functioning business. They still don't have a website, they don't have business cards, and they don't have a brand style guide. You solved one small micro problem perfectly, which naturally illuminates the next set of macro problems that you're also highly qualified to solve. You aren't tricking them, you're just showing them the next step on the staircase.
That distinction is vital. The product has to stand entirely on its own 2 feet. All right, point 4. It must have high perceived value.
Similar to the gated offer, but even more important here, because actual money is changing hands. People buy with their eyes online. If you are selling a digital product, your copywriting, your 3D mock-ups, and your design need to aggressively communicate that this is a premium asset that they are stealing from you for pennies.
And finally, point 5. It must have high actual value.
Again, the critical follow-through. When the physical product arrives in the mail or when they download the software, it has to deliver exactly what you promised and ideally provide a delightful surprise. This is the exact moment trust is cemented. If the product is cheap junk, the relationship is over.
Okay, so let's zoom out and review the journey so far. We gave Dave, the middle manager, free educational value on how to fix his software issue. He trusted us. We offered him a specific diagnostic tool in exchange for his email. We went on the first date. We then offered him a $15 impulse buy, maybe a small plugin that gave him a little victory and fixed a tiny bug. He entered his credit card. He is now a buyer. We have acquired the customer.
Yes, the hardest part is done.
But as we discussed, we probably didn't make any profit on that $15 plugin. In fact, after paying for the Google ads to get Dave to the site, we might be $30 in the hole. Which brings us to the fourth and final stage of the sequence, maximizing profit. If the deep discount doesn't make profit, where on earth does the money come from to actually sustain the business?
The money comes from monetization campaigns. This is the stage in the relationship where you are finally ready to offer your core products, your flagship, higher-priced, high-margin items. The psychological heavy lifting is done, the trust is established, the friction of the first transaction is gone. Now your focus shifts entirely to increasing the average customer value, or ACV.
This is the long-term commitment phase, the marriage proposal, but this time we've actually dated for a while.
Yes, exactly. You have proven your worth, your reliability, and your value at every previous stage. Now the customer is primed, comfortable, and ready to make a significant financial investment with you to solve their larger macro problems. But you can't just throw an entire catalog of expensive products at them randomly. The architectural mechanics of how you present these monetization offers are the difference between a highly profitable funnel and a frustrating one.
There are several specific mechanics for this. Let's start by dissecting two concepts that are constantly used interchangeably but are actually psychologically very different. The upsell and the cross-sell. What is the fundamental difference?
The classic universal example of an upsell is a fast food worker asking, "Would you like to supersize that meal?" An upsell offers the customer more of what they already decided to buy, leading to the exact same desired end result, just a larger or faster version of it. If you buy a meal to satisfy hunger, supersizing it just gives you more volume to satisfy that same hunger. In the digital space, if you buy a software subscription for $10 a month, an upsell is offering the pro version with faster processing speed for $20 a month. It's the same core solution, just amplified.
Okay, so what is a cross-sell?
A cross-sell offers a related, complementary item that solves a new, adjacent problem created by the first purchase. Imagine you go to a high-end menswear store and you buy a beautiful tailored navy suit. The salesperson then says, "We have a pair of Italian leather dress shoes and a matching belt that would perfectly complement this suit." That is a cross-sell. You didn't walk into the store intending to buy shoes. But the purchase of this suit created a new adjacent problem. You want your whole outfit to look good. The shoes complement the primary purchase.
But cross-selling can go horribly wrong, right? I've definitely experienced bad cross-sells that just annoyed me.
Yes, and this is where marketers lose the plot entirely. A bad cross-sell is irrelevant to the immediate goal, doesn't solve an adjacent problem, and just feels like a greedy grab for your wallet. Imagine buying a $2,000 Mac laptop at an Apple store, and right as you're swiping your credit card, the cashier tries to sell you an iPad.
Oh, that would be infuriating. I just dropped $2,000 on a powerful computing machine. Why would I want a slightly less powerful computing machine in the exact same moment? They don't complement each other in that specific moment of purchase.
Exactly. It creates cognitive dissonance. A good cross-sell in that scenario would be a laptop case or an extended warranty. It must truly complement the initial purchase, making the customer feel like you're anticipating their next need, not just trying to extract every last dollar from them. In the digital funnel space, like Shopify, a highly effective post-purchase one-click cross-sell operates on the dopamine high of the initial purchase. They just bought a coffee maker. Instantly offering them a discounted bag of premium beans feels helpful, not greedy.
Another powerful monetization mechanic is creating bundles or kits, right?
This is taking standalone products and combining them into a new, comprehensive value proposition that lowers the cognitive load for the buyer. Instead of forcing a man to research and buy a razor for $15, a brush for $10, shaving cream for $15, and aftershave for $20, you create an ultimate gentleman's shaving kit and sell it for $60. It increases your overall revenue per sale, and it provides massive convenience for the buyer who just wants the complete solution without the headache of making 4 separate decisions.
Now, here is a concept that I found totally fascinating, and it's called the slack adjuster. I just love this terminology.
It is a phenomenal concept that relies heavily on the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, and it can radically alter a company's bottom line profitability overnight. A slack adjuster is a product, service, or highly exclusive experience that you offer at a price point that is exponentially higher than your typical core offer, usually 10 to 100 times higher.
Think about Starbucks as a mainstream example. Their core offer is a $6 cup of coffee. But if you look around the store, they also have those high-end stainless steel espresso machines sitting on the retail shelf for $200 or $300.
Right. And 99% of the people walking into Starbucks will completely ignore that $300 coffee maker. They just want their morning latte. But that is the entire point. The slack adjuster is not meant for the masses. It is specifically engineered to appeal to a very tiny, hyper-affluent fraction of your most loyal market who have a massive surplus of desire and capital. Because the price point and the margins are so extraordinarily high, you only need to sell a microscopic amount of them to make a massive, disproportionate impact on your overall revenue. It essentially takes up the slack in your financial model.
I was thinking about this concept, and I came up with an analogy that I think crystallizes the math behind it. A slack adjuster is basically the VIP backstage pass at a rock concert.
Oh, I like that. Walk me through the mechanics of that.
Well, think about the economy of a touring rock band. Most people in the arena are buying the standard $50 general admission ticket. That is the core offer that fills the room. A decent percentage of those people will walk over to the merch booth and buy a $30 t-shirt that's a classic cross-sell.
Right, that all makes sense.
But then the band offers a $1,000 ultimate VIP meet and greet backstage pass. They only make 20 of them available. 99% of the fans scoff at the price and ignore it. But there's always that 1% of hardcore superfans who have the disposable income and want the ultimate status experience. The band doesn't expect or need everyone to buy it. But because that price point is 20 times higher than the normal ticket, selling just those 20 VIP passes injects an extra $20,000 of pure profit into the night's revenue, without adding any real physical cost to the tour. It adjusts the slack in their entire financial ecosystem.
That is a brilliant analogy. It captures the essence perfectly. It serves that top percentage of your market that desperately wants the absolute premium, frictionless experience, and it disproportionately boosts your profitability. If a business doesn't have a slack adjuster, they are leaving a massive amount of high-margin revenue on the table from their most loyal customers.
And the final monetization strategy we need to cover is the holy grail of modern business: recurring billing.
This is the subscription model, the membership site, the software as a service model. It provides predictable, compounding recurring revenue, which is what builds massive enterprise value. But it is also the most difficult psychological sell because it requires an ongoing, open-ended financial commitment. It truly is the marriage proposal of the sequence. You are asking them to tie their finances to you indefinitely.
So how do you overcome that massive hesitation? Let's take a meal delivery service, for example. If I'm signing up for a service, I might want the food, but I am terrified I'll get locked into a Byzantine contract, forget to pause it when I go on vacation, and be forced to pay for boxes of rotting food sitting on my porch. The subscription fatigue is real.
It is very real, and you overcome it by ruthlessly and explicitly lowering the perceived risk. You have to aggressively attack the customer's fear of being trapped. If you look at successful subscription services, they heavily emphasize in all their copywriting, right next to the buy button, that you can cancel anytime with one click. They make the cancellation process transparent and easy. You have to clearly communicate the massive convenience of the subscription while simultaneously removing the psychological terror of being locked in a cage.
Never leave the customer hanging after their first purchase. Always anticipate their next logical macro need, lower the friction, and offer a clear, logical path to ascend.
Exactly. You're building a staircase where each step naturally, logically follows the previous one.
So we've covered an immense amount of ground today. We've journeyed through the entire architecture of an optimized funnel. If we have to synthesize all of this, the ungated value capturing attention, the gated specific solution capturing the email, the deep discount impulse by changing the relationship status, and the high-ticket monetization maximizing profit, what is the central underlying soul of this entire strategy?
The soul of this entire framework is pacing. It is the deep understanding that sustainable business is a sequence of escalating commitments. You cannot hack human psychology, and you cannot rush a relationship. We've seen that successful modern marketing isn't about shouting the loudest, having the flashiest graphics, or constantly running 50% off sales to completely cold traffic. It is about making the right offer at the exact right moment in the psychological relationship.
Timing is everything.
It really is.
Yeah.
You lead with unconditional value when they don't know you. You establish expertise to earn permission to contact them. You secure a small, low-risk financial transaction to fundamentally change the dynamic from an anonymous lead to a verified buyer. And finally, when the trust is fully cemented, you maximize mutual value through your core and complementary high-ticket offers. It is a methodical, respectful journey.
It really is just the fundamental laws of human dating applied to digital commerce.
It is respecting the intelligence and the psychology of the human being on the other side of the screen.
Which brings us right back to the coffee shop where we started. I want you, the listener, to pause and think about your own business right now or the company you work for. Take a hard, incredibly honest look at the very first interaction a new prospect has with your brand online. When a stranger lands on your homepage or sees your ad in their social feed for the very first time, are you demanding they buy your most expensive, complex product immediately? Are you screaming at them to book a high-pressure sales call? Are you asking them to marry you on the first date? Or are you simply offering to buy them a cup of coffee, show them a little bit of unconditional value, and prove you are worth their time? Because as we've learned today in the digital economy, the company that is patient enough to offer the coffee is the one that eventually earns the marriage.
It's a profound perspective shift that, if applied, will completely restructure how you build your funnels and how you treat your customers.
But it does leave us with a massive, very practical cliffhanger. Now that we understand the psychology and we know exactly how to architect this perfect escalating sequence of offers, how do we actually create the raw material? How do we write the blogs, shoot the videos, and design the tools that pull people into the top of this funnel in the first place? How do we become true masters of attention? We are going to figure that out in our next deep dive into the mechanics of content marketing. Until then, take a look at your offers, respect the pacing, and stop proposing to strangers. Every single minute of every single day, there are more than 1,000 new blog posts published online.
It is a wild statistic.
Right. And in that exact same 60 seconds, 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube alone.
Just a terrifying avalanche of noise.
Exactly. It's a staggering amount of information, and it forces a really uncomfortable question for anyone out there trying to build an audience or, sell a product.
Which is, how do you even compete with that?
Yeah, with that sheer deafening volume of content being hurled at us constantly, is it actually possible for a business to achieve, quote unquote, perfect content marketing?
Right. Or is everyone just crossing their fingers?
Throwing spaghetti at the algorithm, basically, and just hoping to go viral. Because, hope is a terrible marketing strategy.
It really, really is.
So today, in this deep dive, we are going to explore the actual mechanics of turning that avalanche of noise into a perfectly paved road for your customers.
And we're going to prove why the pricing page on your website is actually the most important piece of content you will ever write.
Yeah, that part blew my mind. We are going to dismantle the traditional view of content marketing.
Completely rebuild it from the ground up based on Chapter 4 of our source material, Pursuing Content Marketing Perfection.
You're going to learn how to anticipate exactly what your audience needs at every single stage of their journey, and why a strategic multi-tiered content plan is the ultimate shortcut for turning total strangers into, raving brand advocates.
But to get there, we really have to fundamentally redefine what content actually is in a business context.
Right. So let's start there. What is the actual definition of perfect content?
Well, the internet natively runs on content, right? Human beings inherently crave digital assets that teach them or inspire them or entertain them.
Yeah, we are addicted to it.
Exactly. But the trap most businesses fall into, and this is so common, is equating content exclusively with a blog.
We do content marketing. We have a WordPress site.
Yes. They hire a freelance writer, they spin up a blog, publish maybe 500 words a week about, generic industry news.
And then they wonder why their customer acquisition cost isn't dropping.
Right. Because they are operating on the assumption that output volume directly correlates to revenue.
If we post more, we make more money.
But producing content without mapping it to a specific buyer, intent is literally just shouting into the void.
It's the analogy I like is that posting random blogs is like setting up a massive billboard in the middle of a dense forest.
Oh, it's good.
And just hoping your ideal customer happens to take a hike that day, right? It relies entirely on dumb luck.
It's pure serendipity. Perfect content marketing is not a media play at all. It is an anticipation game.
An anticipation game. Unpack that for me.
It's the deliberate act of anticipating the exact needs of your prospect and then building digital assets that satisfy those needs 24 hours a day.
So it's more like being a concierge at a really nice hotel.
Yes, exactly.
The concierge doesn't just stand in the lobby shouting the dinner menu at everyone who walks by. They observe.
They wait for the right moment.
Right, and when a guest steps off the elevator looking lost, the concierge is right there with a map, anticipating the need before the guest even asks.
Which brings us to the most counterintuitive premise of this whole strategy.
The pricing page thing.
Yes.
Hmm.
Think about FreshBooks, right? The cloud-based accounting software.
Sure.
If we apply this new definition that content is simply an asset built to satisfy an anticipated need, then their pricing page is a masterclass in perfect content marketing.
Which is wild because most people view a pricing page as just an administrative barrier. Like, it's the checkout counter, not content.
But if we break down the mechanics of user intent, a prospect navigating to a pricing page has a hyper-specific, really high-stakes set of anxieties.
They need to know what it costs.
They need to know the financial commitment. They need to know the feature gating between the basic and pro tiers.
And maybe what the immediate next steps are to actually implement it.
Exactly. So mechanically, what that FreshBooks pricing page does is intercept all those anxieties flawlessly.
It doesn't distract them with, like, a clever brand story or a pop-up newsletter, right?
No, absolutely not. It concisely delivers the cost breakdown. It offers a stark visual comparison of the features.
Just giving them exactly what they came for.
Right. And it provides immediate access to customer support chat for any bespoke questions.
Oh, that's smart. Anticipating the hesitation.
And then it presents a completely frictionless entry point with a free trial button. It systematically dismantles their hesitation.
So because it satisfies that specific intent so perfectly, it is, by definition, a highly optimized piece of content.
You've got it. That's the paradigm shift. If you think content is just for top-level awareness, you are leaving so much revenue on the table.
Okay, so we've established that content is the satisfaction of intent. But chronologically, the first challenge is engaging people who don't even know they have a problem yet, right?
Right. The top of the funnel. The TOVFU stage.
TOU always makes me hungry. But the objective here isn't conversion, is it?
Not at all. It's orchestration. We are orchestrating awareness.
Making them problem-aware and solution-aware.
Because at this phase, the prospect is an absolute stranger. They are completely oblivious to your brand, your product, everything.
And often oblivious to the actual friction in their own life that your product solves.
Exactly. And because there is zero existing trust, the content architecture here must be entirely ungated.
Ungated meaning free, no barriers.
Right. You cannot demand an email address or a phone number yet. You haven't proven your value.
The transaction is strictly attention in exchange for value.
And that value exchange has to be overwhelmingly in favor of the consumer.
Because if you haven't earned the right to their inbox, you have to earn the right to their time.
Yes. And you do that by achieving one of three primary directives. You have to entertain, educate, or inspire.
Entertain, educate, inspire. Okay.
If a top-of-funnel asset fails to hit at least one of those triggers, it will not survive the algorithm. It won't capture a stranger's attention.
Let's make this concrete. Can you give an example of how a brand executes this mechanically?
Let's look at Whole Foods. If you visit their whole story blog, you will rarely see a post that explicitly says, you know, our responsibly farmed tilapia is on sale this week.
Because that's an ad. That's a promotional message, not top-of-funnel content.
Exactly. Instead, they publish these heavily researched, visually engaging articles titled something like, my favorite new recipes, tilapia equals easy weeknight dinners.
Okay, so the psychological trigger there is tapping into a universal friction point.
Right. A parent stressed about what to make for dinner at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Yeah, I've been there. So the post provides immediate value by solving that problem through education.
But the structural genius is the subtle transition from problem awareness to solution awareness.
How do they do that without being salesy?
They seamlessly embed contextual links and really high-quality imagery of the exact ingredients required for the recipe.
Which, surprise, surprise, happen to be sourced from Whole Foods.
Exactly. They satisfy the user's intent, finding a fast meal solution, while simultaneously establishing a neural link between the relief of that solved problem and the Whole Foods brand.
That is brilliant. J.Crew does something really similar, right?
Yes, they apply the exact same mechanic.
They don't just mail out a static catalog of SKUs and prices. They produce editorial content offering, like seasonal styling advice.
They educate the consumer on color theory, layering techniques, how to transition your wardrobe from summer to fall.
And by the time the reader feels inspired to update their look, the exact garments from the tutorial are just one click away.
It's frictionless. But, you know, my favorite application of this comes from a highly specialized, really high-stakes industry.
Oh, the dadsdivorce.com case study.
Yes. It is a fascinating example of top-of-funnel orchestration.
Walk us through that because it's a phenomenal example of a microsite strategy.
Okay, so Cordell & Cordell's a family law firm,
Right.
but they didn't just add a divorce tips section to their corporate website.
Which is what 99% of businesses would do.
Right. Instead, they spun up an entirely separate, standalone digital entity called dadsdivorce.com.
Dedicated exclusively to providing targeted, aggressively educational resources for fathers going through a divorce.
Navigating the emotional and financial wreckage of that situation.
The mechanics of that separation are so crucial, though. Why not just put it on the main firm's site?
Because a law firm's corporate site inherently triggers defensiveness.
Right, you go there and you just know you're going to be pitched a massive retainer fee.
Exactly. By housing this 2FU content on a distinct, resource-driven domain, they completely disarm the prospect.
They provide child support calculators, state-by-state alimony guides, legal glossaries.
All entirely for free during what is arguably the most traumatic period of that user's life.
And the psychological reciprocity generated by that maneuver is just immeasurable.
It really is. Think about it. When a father spends 3 weeks relying on that microsite to understand his rights,
When he transitions from problem-aware to acutely solution-aware.
he has fundamentally bonded with the architect of that information.
So when it's finally time to formally retain counsel, the friction of evaluating competitors is gone.
He's going to hire the firm that gave him the map when he was lost in the dark.
Wow. Okay, so I have a question then. A lot of marketing teams hear about these sprawling content ecosystems, blogs, podcasts, microsites, and they panic.
Scope creep is real.
Do I really need to launch an infographic series, a digital magazine, and a YouTube channel all at once to succeed?
Absolutely not. That assumption is a myth that destroys marketing budgets.
So omnipresence is not the goal.
The mechanical reality is that dilution of effort leads to dilution of impact.
Oh, I like that. Dilution of effort is dilution of impact.
The strategic imperative here is radical focus. A business scaling its TO5U operations should restrict itself to one primary content vehicle.
Like just a blog or just a podcast.
Yes, and 1 or 2 primary distribution channels. Mastering one channel is vastly superior to spreading yourself thin.
It's the difference between being a sniper and wielding a shotgun, right?
Perfectly said. If your internal team has exceptional copywriting talent, index heavily on long-form SEO articles.
And if your founder is highly charismatic on camera, anchor your strategy around short-form video on a single social platform.
Exactly. You have to achieve absolute mastery and audience saturation in one vertical before you ever earn the right to expand into a second.
Okay, so let's say you've achieved that mastery. You have a steady stream of top-of-funnel awareness. What's the next step? Because awareness doesn't pay payroll.
Right, page views don't keep the lights on. You have to transition those anonymous, educated strangers into the middle of the funnel.
The MOFU stage.
Yes, the middle of the funnel is where the objective pivots completely. We shift from generating pure awareness to facilitating evaluation.
We're dealing in the currency of identity now, right?
Yeah.
We have to convert anonymous traffic into trackable leads.
And this transition requires the introduction of friction.
Friction. But we just spent all this time removing friction.
I know, but specifically, we need friction through a gated offer. At the top, we removed it to maximize reach. Now, we are constructing a deliberate barrier.
Okay, so we're offering a digital asset of incredibly high perceived value.
Like a comprehensive industry report, or a proprietary software download, or an exclusive webinar.
But the toll to access it is the prospect's contact information, usually their email address.
It is an economic exchange, pure and simple.
Yeah, no fiat currency is changing hands, but in the digital ecosystem, a verified email address is capital.
Consumers are fiercely protective of their inboxes. We all suffer from subscription fatigue.
Seriously. So to convince a prospect to willingly hand over that data, the perceived value of the gated asset has to be huge.
It must exponentially outweigh the anticipated annoyance of future marketing emails.
Which is exactly why relying on blog posts at the middle of funnel stage is a catastrophic structural error.
Yes, blogs are natively designed for frictionless consumption. They're public, scannable, and they demand zero commitment.
If a prospect is in the evaluation phase, like actively comparing your enterprise software against a competitor's 500-word blog post titled "The Benefits of Cloud Computing," does absolutely nothing to help them.
It lacks the gravity required for evaluation.
If I'm an IT director preparing to pitch a 6-figure migration to my CFO, I can't build my presentation on a generic listicle.
You need substance. You need a robust white paper detailing data migration security protocols.
Or a recorded technical demonstration.
For a 14-day sandbox environment, you need an asset substantial enough that you are eagerly willing to trade your corporate email to get it.
So the diagnostic question for any marketing team analyzing their funnel is basically, are you asking for marriage on the first date?
Essentially, yes. Are you aggressively pushing a direct sale immediately after a prospect consumes a TOFU blog post?
Because if the answer is yes, your funnel is fundamentally broken.
You are demanding a high-friction commitment, a financial transaction, without providing a low-friction bridge for evaluation.
You have to engineer a gated asset that validates your expertise and formally initiates the lead nurturing process.
Okay, so assuming the gated offer does its job, the prospect consumes the high-value asset, they evaluate your solution, and they arrive at the precipice.
The moment of truth.
They're fully problem-aware, fully solution-aware, and they are weighing the final variables. Welcome to the bottom of the funnel.
The BOFU. This is why we drive the conversion, right?
Singular objective. Systematically dismantle the final layers of buyer hesitation.
Historically, bottom-of-funnel operations were just the domain of a high-pressure sales floor.
Yeah, the marketing team generated the lead, tossed it over the wall, and the sales rev spent hours badgering the prospect until they submitted.
Glengarry Glen Ross style. Always be closing.
Right. But highly calibrated BOFU content completely alters that dynamic. It preempts the objections before the sales call ever even happens.
Because you aren't just competing against rival companies here. Your fiercest competitor is the inertia of the status quo.
Doing nothing is always the path of least resistance for a buyer. Always.
So BOFU content has to be engineered to make the pain of remaining in the current state feel significantly worse than the perceived risk of buying your solution.
Let's look at Salesforce. They are masters at this. They rely heavily on highly technical, highly specific customer success stories.
But it's crucial to understand the mechanics of a BOFU case study versus a 2FU spotlight, right?
Huge difference. A top-of-funnel post might just say, Company X boosted morale with our software.
A BOFU Salesforce case study is an entirely different beast. It's structured around a hyper-specific financial objection.
Exactly. It targets the anxieties of a chief financial officer. It explicitly outlines the exact capital risk the client feared before purchasing.
It details the timeline of implementation to alleviate operational fears.
And it mathematically proves the specific ROI realized by Q3.
It is not a marketing fluff piece.
No, it is a meticulously crafted financial justification document designed to be slid across a boardroom table.
It effectively removes the friction of fear. I love that. But my absolute favorite piece of BOFU engineering brings us back to FreshBooks.
Their FreshBooks versus QuickBooks comparison page.
Yes. The psychological anticipation built into that single web page is just staggering.
It is a masterstroke of intercepting intent.
Walk us through the behavioral pattern of a high-intent buyer in that scenario.
Okay, so when a prospect has completed their evaluation and they are hovering over the buy button, what is their very last action?
They open a new tab.
They navigate to a search engine and they type FreshBooks versus QuickBooks.
Because they are actively seeking external validation to ensure they aren't making a huge mistake by ignoring the industry standard.
FreshBooks knows that search query is inevitable.
So instead of crossing their fingers and hoping a third-party review site ranks first and speaks nicely about them,
they proactively engineered a highly optimized, dedicated landing page to intercept that exact search traffic.
they literally do the customer's homework for them.
And by hosting the comparison on their own domain, they completely control the narrative framework.
They can objectively list the features where QuickBooks might be, overly complex for a small business.
While highlighting their own platform's streamlined interface for freelancers, it is radical anticipation.
They neutralize the final objection before the prospect even has a chance to articulate it.
So the actionable protocol for building out these BOFU assets is incredibly straightforward for our listeners.
Yeah. How do you actually do this?
Sit down with your sales team, your customer success managers, the people manning your support inboxes.
The people on the front lines.
Ask them to isolate the top 3 questions or objections a prospect raises in the final 48 hours before they sign a contract.
Or before they abandon their cart.
Exactly. Whatever those 3 objections are, you must engineer dedicated BOFU content to dismantle them.
Like a technical comparison matrix, an interactive ROI calculator, or a highly specific FAQ hub.
Yes. However, engineering robust assets for the top, middle, and bottom of the funnel is only half the equation.
Right, because you can have the most persuasive white papers in the world, but if they exist in isolation, the prospect will just consume them and wander off.
The critical connective tissue of a functional marketing engine is the ascension path.
The ascension path. Every single piece of content you produce, without exception, must contain a frictionless, logically sequenced call to action.
A CTA that guides the prospect deeper into the ecosystem. And the operative word there is logical.
Because the cognitive dissonance caused by an illogical ascension path is the #1 killer of conversion rates.
Let's go back to the FreshBooks pricing page.
Okay.
If a user has navigated to that page, they are demonstrating bottom-of-funnel intent. They are looking at the $15 a month tier.
They have their credit card out.
If the primary call to action button at the bottom of that page says, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for accounting tips,
Oh, that's painful. You have committed a fatal architectural error.
you have taken a prospect who is literally reaching for their wallet and forcefully shoved them all the way back to the top of the funnel.
You interrupted their purchasing momentum with an irrelevant awareness stage offer.
The logical ascension path on a pricing page is exclusively a start free trial or buy now directive. Nothing else.
Conversely, if a prospect is reading a top-of-funnel blog post titled 10 Ways to Improve Your Organic Garden,
The ascension path cannot be a button demanding they purchase a $5,000 industrial greenhouse.
that is an absurd leap in commitment.
The logical step is a middle-of-funnel gated offer, like download our free 20-page guide to testing soil pH.
You have to step the prospect up the ladder incrementally, matching the friction of the ask to the level of trust established.
And here is the mechanism that elevates this entire strategy from good to world-class.
That's my favorite part. Silent segmentation.
While the prospect is navigating these carefully placed steps, the system is actively profiling them without ever asking a single question.
I think this is analogous to setting up invisible tripwires in an art museum.
That is an excellent framework for it. Explain the mechanics of the tripwire.
Okay, so if I own a gallery and I want to know what kind of art a visitor prefers so I can sell them a painting, I could hand them a 3-page survey at the door.
But surveys introduce immense friction.
And frankly, consumers lie. They might claim they love abstract expressionism because it sounds sophisticated.
But human behavior is the only infallible indicator of true intent.
Exactly. So instead of a survey, I set up digital tripwires. I don't ask them what they like. I simply track which room they spend 20 minutes standing in.
In the digital ecosystem, time on page and click-through behavior serve as those tripwires.
The premise of silent segmentation is that a consumer's engagement with highly specific content is a definitive declaration of their profile.
Let's use a meal delivery service as an example. If they publish 3 distinct top-of-funnel blog posts,
One focusing on vegan meal prep, one on high-protein athletic recovery meals, and one on gluten-free family dinners.
they aren't just generating awareness, they are deploying a sophisticated tracking mechanism.
Because mechanically, a tracking pixel fires when a user clicks the vegan blog post, right?
Yes, a snippet of code on the website fires. If the analytics show that the user lingered on that page for 4 minutes, scrolling all the way down,
That user has silently raised their hand and authenticated their dietary preferences.
you didn't have to interrupt their user experience with an intrusive pop-up form asking, are you vegan?
They explicitly told you through the allocation of their time.
And the downstream application of that data is where the revenue is generated.
Because that user's profile is now tagged with a vegan intent data point.
So your marketing automation platform can flawlessly segment their future communications.
The next automated email they receive isn't a generic blast about a new steak offering.
The retargeting ads they see on social media aren't for the standard meal plan.
Every touch point from that moment forward is hyper-personalized to offer a vegan trial. You have used content consumption as a silent, frictionless segmentation tool.
It's incredibly powerful. But this brings us to the operational reality of the strategy.
The pushback.
Yes, we have mapped out a sprawling architecture. TOFU orchestration, MOFU gated evaluation, BOFU conversion assets, logical ascension paths, pixel-driven silent segmentation.
The immediate pushback from any internal marketing team is going to be about bandwidth.
We don't have time for this.
Creating this volume of distinct, highly calibrated content sounds like a recipe for chronic burnout.
It sounds insurmountable if you are operating under the archaic assumption that every piece of content must be generated from scratch.
Right. But the engine that makes this entire framework sustainable is the ruthless application of repurposing.
You do not need to invent the wheel every morning. You just need to re-engineer its application.
There's a prime example of this workflow from digital marketers' internal operations in the source text.
Yes. They developed a comprehensive, highly researched presentation on the mechanics of launching a successful podcast.
And the initial output was a live, in-person keynote address, right?
Yes. But the life cycle of that core intellectual property did not end there.
They took the exact same slide deck and the speaker's notes, brought them into a studio, and recorded a polished on-demand webinar.
Which serves as a middle-of-funnel gated lid magnet.
Right. Then they stripped the audio file from that webinar recording, added a custom intro and outro, and published it as a top-of-funnel podcast episode.
Brilliant. And finally, they handed that audio file to a copywriter,
who transcribed the core concepts, reformatted them for SEO, and published it as a definitive 3,000-word blog post.
One singular core effort in research and ideation yielded 4 distinct assets spread across multiple mediums.
Targeting different stages of the funnel. It maximizes your exposure while drastically minimizing production fatigue.
But while you are repurposing the format, you must be hyper-vigilant about customizing the messaging for your specific customer avatars.
You can't just distribute generic one-size-fits-all content and expect it to convert.
The targeting has to be incredibly precise.
The source material highlights an article titled 6 Trending Digital Marketing Skills to Put on a Resume.
If we analyze that headline, it is doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting in terms of avatar selection.
It acts as an aggressive filter.
Think about it. If I am the CEO of a mid-sized logistics company looking to hire a marketing agency, I have zero interest in updating my resume.
That headline actively repelled you, which is exactly what it's designed to do.
That piece of content is engineered exclusively for an employee avatar.
A junior marketer whose explicit intent is to acquire new certifications to leverage for a promotion.
And because the content is so sharply tailored to that specific employee avatar, the ascension path embedded within the article can be perfectly aligned with their desires.
The call to action isn't hire our agency.
No, the call to action is enroll in our advanced digital marketing certification course.
Which is perfect. To prevent this whole sprawling ecosystem from collapsing into chaos, the source material mandates a strict 4-step content campaign plan.
This is the operational blueprint that must be finalized before a single dollar is spent on production.
Step 1 is avatar selection. You must explicitly define who the campaign is targeting, and just as importantly, who it is actively excluding.
Step 2 is asset brainstorming. You meticulously map out the specific assets required to pull that avatar through the entire journey.
What is the TOFU hook? What is the MOFU gated offer? What is the BOFU conversion mechanism?
Step 3 dictates the vehicle and the channel. Are you producing a text-based article for organic search or a highly produced video for LinkedIn?
And step 4, the most critical safeguard, is ascension planning. You must document the exact logical call to action that will bridge every single asset in the chain.
If you try to build this funnel in your head, you will fail.
You have to physically map this out on a whiteboard or in a spreadsheet.
Because the moment you visualize the architecture, you will instantly spot the dead ends where an ascension path is missing.
Or where a middle-of-funnel asset is asking for too much friction too soon.
It forces operational clarity.
But even with a perfectly engineered, seamlessly integrated content machine humming in the background, you face the final hurdle.
A beautiful machine hidden in a dark basement generates zero revenue.
You have to force traffic into the system, which brings us to the mechanics of distribution.
The source text categorizes distribution into 4 main arteries.
Email is the most straightforward, right? You leverage curiosity-driven subject lines to continuously cycle your existing subscriber base back into your newly published content.
Search requires rigorous SEO mapping, ensuring your assets align perfectly with the specific long-tail queries your avatars are typing into Google.
Social media involves tailoring the format of your assets to the native behaviors of different platforms.
But the 4th artery is paid traffic, and this is where the logic seems to snap for a lot of small business owners.
Paid traffic for content promotion is often deeply misunderstood.
It really is.
Let's play devil's advocate here, because the math on the surface looks suicidal to a lot of people.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Facebook and LinkedIn ad costs are consistently rising. You are telling a business owner to spend real capital, let's say $3 a click, to drive a prospect to a completely free, ungated, top-of-funnel blog post.
Yes.
You're spending money to send traffic to a page where you are explicitly not asking for a sale.
Right.
If I'm paying $3 just to get someone to read a vegan recipe, and maybe 1% of those readers eventually convert on a $10 meal plan a month later, the unit economics are totally upside down.
Wow.
How does a company float that acquisition cost without going bankrupt?
That is the exact mathematical anxiety that prevents businesses from scaling. But it assumes a flawed premise.
How so?
It assumes the ROI of that $3 click is measured solely by immediate direct response conversion.
Which it isn't.
When you pay to promote top-of-funnel content, you are not buying a direct sale. You are buying high-fidelity, first-party data, and you are buying predictability.
Ah, the predictability, the algorithm.
Exactly. If you rely purely on organic reach, you are at the mercy of platform updates. One algorithm tweak, and your organic traffic drops by 80% overnight.
We've all seen that happen.
When you inject paid capital into the top of the funnel, you mathematically guarantee the volume of eyeballs entering your ecosystem.
But what about those unit economics?
To address that, we have to look at the customer acquisition cost, the U's, versus the lifetime value, the LTV, combined with the power of the retargeting pixel we discussed during silent segmentation.
The tripwire mechanic.
Precisely. Yes, you paid $3 for that initial click. But because that user landed on your specific vegan recipe page, they are now captured in a highly segmented, invisible, custom audience.
So you don't need them to buy the $10 meal plan today.
Tomorrow, you can run a highly aggressive, conversion-focused retargeting ad specifically to the people who read that blog post.
Because they are a warm audience. They've already received value from you.
The conversion rate on a retargeting ad shown to a user who has already consumed your TOFUO content is exponentially higher.
And the cost per click is drastically lower than running cold ads to strangers.
You are subsidizing the expensive initial click by driving down the cost of the final conversion.
Furthermore, a sophisticated marketing engine isn't just selling a $10 meal plan.
Right. They have an ascension path in place to eventually upsell that customer to a $100 a month premium subscription.
When you calculate the lifetime value of that customer over 2 years, that initial $3 click to a free blog post becomes the highest leverage investment in your entire portfolio.
It changes everything. But, the architecture of that paid strategy completely collapses if the prospect experiences a fragmented brand identity.
Oh, this is such a crucial point. If the Facebook ad is hyper-professional, but they click through to a blog post that is littered with emojis and slang, the cognitive dissonance breaks the trust.
This brings us to the final and perhaps most overlooked component of the entire framework, the style guide.
Marketers tend to view the style guide as just archaic corporate bureaucracy.
It's viewed as a PDF that lives on a server and dictates whether or not the company uses the Oxford comma.
It sounds like an exercise in pedantry. Why should a founder scaling a startup actually care about a grammar document?
Because the style guide is the literal DNA of your brand's psychological consistency.
Wow, okay.
Consider the sheer volume of touch points in the funnel we just built. A prospect interacts with a paid ad, reads a 3,000-word blog post, downloads a technical white paper, receives a sequence of automated emails, and eventually talks to a sales rep.
That's a lot of touch points.
And if you have a team of freelancers, agencies, and internal staff producing all of those different assets, the tone will inevitably drift.
The emails will sound stiff and academic because the operations manager wrote them.
But the blog will sound snarky and aggressive because you hired an edgy copywriter.
And when a prospect senses that tonal inconsistency, it registers subconsciously as instability.
They cannot define the personality of the entity they are supposed to trust with their money.
A comprehensive style guide dictates the emotional resonance of the brand.
It outlines the specific vocabulary that is approved, the industry jargon that is strictly forbidden, and the emotional pacing of the copy.
It ensures that whether a customer is reading a 140-character tweet or a 50-page enterprise case study, the soul of the brand remains absolutely intact.
It manufactures trust through relentless consistency.
If we synthesize this entire architecture from redefining the pricing page to building out the 2FU, MOFU, and BOFU assets, to stringing them together with logical ascension paths and pixel-based silent segmentation, all governed by a unified brand voice.
It's a massive undertaking.
It is, but the ultimate realization is that perfect content marketing isn't really about content at all.
What is it about?
It is about radical empathy.
I love that phrasing.
It is the rejection of the ego-driven assumption that the market cares about your product.
Because they don't. The market only cares about its own friction.
Perfect content marketing is the systematic discipline of anticipating a stranger's exact anxieties, fears, and desires at every microstage of their journey.
And building a customized, frictionless bridge to carry them over those hurdles.
You aren't tricking anyone into a sale. You are serving them with such overwhelming precision that choosing your solution becomes the only mathematically and emotionally logical conclusion.
You are guiding them out of the muddy, confusing waters of their problem and providing a paved road directly to the clarity of your solution.
You are the concierge holding the map.
Exactly.
And now that you possess the structural blueprint for this incredibly sophisticated content machine, you face the operational reality of how to actually feed it on a daily basis without losing your mind.
Specifically, how do you harness the single most versatile, foundational tool in its entire arsenal to fuel the top of your funnel?
Next time, we're going to crack the code and break down the pure mechanics of blogging for business.
Until then, look at the primary asset you are promoting right now and ask yourself the hardest question. What is the next logical step you are demanding your prospect take? And have you left any friction in their way?
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.